Thank you. Dr. Sherwood, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as is our custom, please join me in reading the Del Mar College mission statement. Del Mar College provides access to quality education, workforce preparation, and lifelong learning for student and community success. Thank you very much. We will immediately go into closed session. Whoops, wait, I have to read something else first. I apologize. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meetings on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. Now we will go into closed session under Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including at-large regent vacancy and possible discussion and action in open session. Under Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or legal claims or a settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and seeking of legal advice from counsel with possible discussion and action in open session. And under Texas Government Code 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, regarding a purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property with a possible discussion and action in open session. And Texas Government Code 551.073, deliberation regarding prospective gift, regarding a prospective gift or donation with possible discussion and action in open session. The board is going into closed session. Oh, that's correct. Okay, let's make sure I read everything correctly. Going into closed session at 10:32 a.m. Okay, the board has come back from closed session at 12:11 p.m. Would like to thank all of the individuals who applied for the vacant at-large regent position. We had some very quality applicants, and we want to appreciate the willingness of the 9 individuals to put their name out there and to volunteer for that opportunity to serve our students in our community. Given that, Mr. Rivas, do you have
Madam Chair, yes, I do have a motion to make. The board has decided to shortlist the applicants, and we are going to be conducting interviews for Dr. Larry Lee, Libby Everett, and Sandra Messbarger.
Is that your motion?
They to be determined. That's my motion.
That's a motion by Mr. Rivas. A second by Ms. Estrada. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any public comment on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. We will be posting that. Those will be public interviews at a date to be determined and to be announced shortly. With that, the board will recess at 12:12 p.m. and we will reconvene at 1 p.m. Very shortly. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to reconvene our Board of Regents meeting. We met earlier this morning in some items in closed session, and so we did all our traditional roll call and Pledge of Allegiance and all of those things in the morning. So we are reconvening at 1 p.m. for our afternoon session. And we are going to start with a recognition of our board member who recently resigned his position, but we couldn't go without some recognition for Regent and longtime Chair Trey McCampbell. So Trey, would you join me up front? Or I'm gonna say a few words as you're walking. So come on up. Walk slowly. Dun, 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 commencement. So Chair McCampbell and I only had the pleasure of serving together on this board for 4 years. But I can speak as a longtime friend, and admirer and colleague of Trey's, that I know he brought in his 14 years as regent and about a decade of that serving as chair of this board. He brought the passion, the intelligence, the commitment, the dedication, and the organizational skills that any of us who know Trey know that he brings to everything that he does. So as I walk down in a second to present his gift to him, it is with fondness and with deep regret that we won't be able to serve together in this capacity anymore, but I know that we will remain friends for a long time to come. So I'm going to open it up to the board to say additional comments as I kind of walk around.
Is this the roast part?
This is the roast part. That was as nice as you're going to get.
I have a few rebuttals too, just keep that in mind as you.
I had the pleasure of serving Trey longer than you did, and I learned one thing from Trey. The first time he got appointed as chairman, he was overseas, I think, in the Holy Lands. So I learned if you don't want to be chair of the board, don't leave town.
Don't go to the Holy Land.
But yeah, Trey has been everything you said and more. And I've had the pleasure of knowing him a long time, and like you said, everything he does well. So we're gonna miss you, Trey. Appreciate your
Thank you.
service. Thank you for everything.
Okay, appreciate that.
Ray McCampbell,
Okay. You want me to go?
go ahead.
Well,
I love
Trey-
it that you're fighting over me. That's great.
We're fighting over you. We're going to miss you, but I wanted to say thank you so much for always being my friend. I always felt very comfortable in calling you, even if it was at work, and you were always available to talk to me. I think this board is really going to miss a strong leader. You guided us. You were with us so many times, and I'm really going to miss you. So again, thank you for being a friend, and you know, you and Gabe and I have been or served the longest on this board now, and gosh, it's hard for me to say goodbye.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the
We'll
fact
start
that
crying.
you still have your hair and Gabe and I don't after all these years. So.
Yeah.
You know, Trey, I really appreciate your leadership. I learned a lot from you. Wonderful mentor. You're like a brother to me. I'm not gonna say older or younger, but you're like a brother to me. And I appreciate your leadership on the board and the things you've accomplished for Del Mar College. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
I'll speak. Trey is the reason pretty much that I'm on this board. It was his encouragement and his invitation to be part of it, and it was a huge gift, and I will always be indebted to you for that. And also in recognition that not only is this a great board, but the leadership that Trey was able to give with his integrity and his passion is very, very difficult for us to live up to that, but we'll try. We'll try.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate that.
So I have the shortest tenure with you on this board, but of course I've known you for a long time and hope to continue to know you. But I watched from afar and was always very impressed with your leadership for the board as well as in the community. So I was hoping to continue to learn from your leadership on the board, but we wish you all the best and just thank you so much for everything you've done for Del Mar.
Thank you so much, Marie.
Trey?
I just got on the board, but I've known Trey for a while, and basically just as good friends. But I know that Trey has always been very devoted and to our community, to our college here, Del Mar, and I know you've served it real well. The thing that I really like about Trey more than anything else is that everywhere he would see me, he would come up and he would shake my hand, and I really appreciated that. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, Hector. Appreciate it. And good luck.
Thank you.
Trey, I served with you for 2 years. I greatly appreciate your professionalism, your organizational skills, and your intelligence. We will greatly miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I? Boss, you'll always be boss to me. It's more about numbers. I think these pictures are representations of some numbers. There's $296 million in investment in this community that came through your leadership. There are almost 12,000 students on the credit side. There are as many on the non-credit side. We have all-time high graduation rates in the past 2 springs. Those are just snippets and data sets and bricks and mortar that are to come that'll transform this community forever. Forever. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mark.
After all that said, Trey, one more thing. Thank you for making this sport shine, and we wish you the best.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And go Bucks.
And go Bucks.
Miller Bucks.
Well, that's the nicest roast I've ever had, so thank you for not skewering me, which would be easy to do because you all spoke about the good times, probably not the times that I drove you crazy. It's really been my sincere pleasure to serve on the Board of Regents, to work alongside with each one of you and with our absolutely phenomenal staff. We're just so blessed there. To serve side by side with women and men who I consider not just colleagues, but friends, true friends. The work that Del Mar College does, the work that you do as Board of Regents and our great staff do is truly life-changing, and I mean that literally. For example, the first time that the college changed my life was in the early 60s when my mother would bring our Cub Scout troop to what we now know as Richardson Performance Hall for all of those Audubon film series. And I have to tell you, as a young man from the west side of town, a young boy, being on a real college campus, it was awesome. So never forget that first impressions always matter. The next time that the college changed my life was in the late 60s and 70s, and by the way, I'm dating myself by actually saying the decade, so I'm sure that'll end up in print someplace. But that was through band concerts and UIL competitions when I was a student at Driscoll Junior High and then later Miller High School. The Del Mar music program then, as it is now, was legendary. And to be a part of that excellence really inspired me and gave me hope and broadened my horizons for what I could be personally. Then in 1973, I actually became a real paying student at Del Mar College. I will tell you that my family, with my father, who was a blue collar, worked hard to provide for his family, that to even think about getting a college degree, I needed to consider Del Mar College because it was accessible and as affordable, just as it is now. And I can also admit with all good conscience and sincerity that I would not have a college education if it had not been for Del Mar College. And I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for Del Mar College. Wasn't going to do this. And then in 2004, I was elected to the Board of Regents, and it was my chance to pay back to Del Mar College and to be a part of those like us who've changed lives, and it was really important. This was the line I didn't think I'd get through, and it's that goodbyes are never easy to say, and they're generally emotional, as they have been for me. But I do want to quote one of my favorite philosophers. Wait for it, Winnie the Pooh. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open this just in case. It's a real surprise. That's got Claudia's names on it. Wow. That's what you look like. Yeah, just in case. Just my that's what I looked like 14 years ago. It's, and it wasn't even Photoshop back then either. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you so much, and these are hard, I'm not gonna say big shoes, these are hard shoes to fill, coming in as chair after Mr. McCampbell. But we are, again, so fortunate to have had your leadership on the Board of Regents. Thank you. And now we get to do what is a regular favorite part of our agenda, is to recognize faculty and sometimes students, but today it's all faculty. So Dr. Lewis.
Yes, Dr. Phillips, come up. This was the awkward part where people stare at you. Dr. Judy Phillips is the 2018 and 17th recipient of the highly coveted Dr. Eileen Crichton Award for Teaching Excellence. The award represents the late educator's legacy as a master teacher and serves as the benchmark faculty must emulate to receive the honor. Dr. Phillips' portfolio highlighted over 31 years of her dedication to teaching at Del Mar College. Along with her service to the Texas Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, she is a former recipient of the TAHPERD, wow, that's a lot. Yeah. Okay, Tayford, Honor Award recognizing her accomplishments to her profession and the field of kinesiology. Among other accomplishments, she began teaching kinesiology online and served as a part-time instructional designer for the distance learning department. She expanded her technology skills and designed the department's webpage, and she currently serves as its web content manager in addition to being the department chair of kinesiology. Dr. Phillips, what would you like to say?
I guess no. Speechless, no. This has just truly been an honor. My 31 years at Del Mar have just been phenomenal. Thank y'all.
Thank you, and congratulations.
I have to tell you that when I called her last fall to tell her she had won, she said, "Oh, thank God, I thought you were calling to fire me."
Good Lord.
Okay, Dr. Donaldson. Dr. Tammy Donaldson is the Assistant Professor of Reading and Faculty Coordinator of Developmental Education. She was elected as the Vice President for the Association of Literacy Educators and Researchers. Her term as Vice President is for 2018-19. She will subsequently move to President-elect and then President. This is a very prestigious national organization. Her term officially began after the fall 2018 conference held in Louisville, Kentucky in November. Prior to that event and in preparation for her appointment, she attended the Fall Executive Committee and Board of Directors meetings. Dr. Donaldson began teaching at the college in 2012 and is a tenured assistant professor. She is also providing great leadership as our faculty coordinator of developmental education. Dr. Donaldson, would you like to say a few words?
I really didn't know what she was going to say because they didn't ask me to submit anything. So I didn't know she knew all that. She's watching me, y'all. But I just want to say thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be appreciated and recognized. And I can't tell you how excited I am about this position because it is an international organization. And so, yeah, Del Mar, we're getting your name out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr.
Congratulations. Okay. Christy and Jean. And finally, we have Christy Urbick, Intramural Director and Kinesiology Instructor, and Jean Power, Professor of Kinesiology. At the annual Texas Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance convention this past December, Christy and Jean won first place in the professional division of the research section's poster presentations. Their research was entitled Movement Screening and Mobility Training in Community College Personal Fitness versus Yoga Courses. Their competition included presenters from Texas A&M, University of Texas, Texas A&M San Antonio, Texas Women's University, TAMU CC, TAMU Kingsville, Howard Payne University, and Sam Houston State University, and they beat them all. Ms. Urbick began teaching at Del Mar College in January 2016, and Mr. Power is a tenured professor with over 23 years of service to the college. So I'll let y'all say whatever you'd like to say.
Thank you.
Jean?
I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. You have to pardon my appearance. I'm coming from class, and I know they're over there right now, and I'm sure they're really sorry that I had to leave. And so, surprise is I'm going right back. So, appreciate the opportunity again to be here and all the support that y'all give us, as well as the administration. And I always tell people that. They ask me, about Del Mar, and I always bring up the level of support that we get from the higher echelons there, the board and the administration and president. And so it's, like I said, almost 24 years now that I've been here, and I can truly say it is the best job I've ever had. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you all for indulging us in that. Again, that's one of our favorite parts of the board meeting, is to be able to recognize our outstanding faculty and outstanding students. So thank you, Dr. Lewis and Dr. Escamilla, for that. We'd like to move on to our staff reports, and as Mr. Alfonso is coming up, Dr. Escamilla, do you have some introductory remarks?
I would. Our ERP is our enterprise resource planning system that we have had for many years, is now being reviewed and scrutinized, and it is time for the college to evolve one way or another with a new ERP. And this has been long coming. There are many options out there. What I want to let everybody know is there's been lots of internal vetting at the college. And when I'm able to tell my colleagues around the state that faculty, staff, administrators alike are all anxiously awaiting this and want this to happen sooner than later, they can't believe, they almost don't believe me when I say that. Usually there's a resistance. No, but this speaks to the leadership of Mr. Alfonso and his team in and our faculty and staff in preparing for the future of this college. That's what this is all about. And so today is kind of a kickoff, kind of timelining what our next steps are and how this has been vetted. This is a very, very big deal that will launch us into the next decade or seemingly more than that. So thank you, Mr. Alfonso.
Yeah, that's very true. Usually there's traditionally heavy resistance for such a major change. And this major change is not only for us. Technology has changed since we procured the existing ERP, which was in 2008. Before I go with my presentation, we have faculty chair reps that want to say something about their endorsement and participation in this project since 2006.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Brashears. I'm professor of drama. I'm past chair of the Faculty Council. I was chair of Faculty Council for 2 years prior to this year, and I've been working very closely with Mr. Alfonso on this for the last 2 years, and our current Faculty Council chair is working with him now, and our previous Faculty Council chair, Teresa Klein, was working with him prior to that, just to kind of give you an idea of the amount of time that we spent on this. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about a potential new ERP today. Where a lot of this had started, we had a lot of, I know that I had received a lot of concern from faculty over our current ERP, especially from the instructional side, advising, registration, just being very, very frustrated with some of the functional aspects of our current program. And so we started to look into this and specifically asking, well, what is it about our current program that doesn't work? And a lot of, in fact, most of the answers we got was, well, everything. And so we tried to narrow that down just a little bit and started looking at some of the real challenges that our current ERP poses on the instructional side. And we started asking, is there anything with this that we might be able to fix? Are there any updates or other modules that we could get, or does our current ERP provider plan on any updates in the future? And the answer was no. And then our next question led into, is there anything else out there that would be better than what we have now? Because we're not looking for just something different, we're looking for something better. And that's when August really took that charge and started doing a lot of research. He kept bringing a lot of the research back to the college. I know that a lot of administration, a lot of staff, a lot of faculty have been involved in looking at the other programs that might be out there, because we want to make sure that there is, but before we would dump what we've got, we want to make sure there's something out there that might work for us. Mr. Alfonso brought a lot of research back, and we've looked at a lot of that research, and I think, speaking from the instructional side, I think from what I've seen with a lot of different vendors, a lot of different programs, the functionality out there, I think that we feel like we're a bunch of hamsters on a wheel that are just spinning and not getting anywhere with what we've got now, but I feel very confident that there is something else out there that would certainly meet our needs now, plus our objectives. We have a QEP that's going to be coming up with SACs that is going to be related to advising and registration, which a new ERP can certainly support that a lot better than what we've got now. We've got the Pathways initiative coming on board. I don't feel our current ERP could really support that in any way. There are several others out there that I feel could support that initiative as well. And then our new strategic plan, which is going to be coming to you in the upcoming months. And I feel that a new ERP would certainly be able to support most of the objectives that are probably going to be laid out in that strategic plan. And so coming to you today, we're hoping that we will see this nudge to that next step so that we can start soliciting some of those RFPs.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
What I have on the screen is a list of some of the in-depth activity that occurred since 2006. And it's just not me. Many in IT and student services and all over the college, and especially faculty, participated in getting us to today's announcement. I created this slide to demonstrate how best to approach the search for a new ERP. It's kind of pretty crowded, but if I may, focus on the inner five. This inner five is what we have and what we will solicit, acquire, and license for. The only thing different in this is on the very top, we are going to be requiring for the first time a CRM, or a customer relations management system, for an onboarding credit students, non-credit students, and workforce development students. I think that's what the college needs. Technology of today really enhances that process. So that's a plus to begin with. At this level, when you look at 5 or 6 vendors, they will all look the same on the sales pitch. Yeah. The next 8 slides kind of demonstrate how we can differentiate one for the other. Which ERP has a guided pathways track? Which ERP can support better curriculum, catalog management, so therefore better degree audit, better advising? Which ERP has within it a comprehensive state reporting? Which one can support institutional research and complement our investment with Civitas? Those metrics will allow us to really see which ERP can move us and advance us from what we currently have. Okay? On the technical side, it must be hosted or cloud-based. Authentication, all of the different security stacks must be in the cloud. Remember, we are in a hurricane zone 6 months out of the year. We no longer must buy servers and authenticate locally and then access resources out externally in the cloud. We want the most modern stacks for cybersecurity, storage, and authentication. It must have, therefore, also the commonalities, again, to support institutional research and all of our predictive analytics that we now anticipate with an institution like Del Mar College, who has an investment with Civitas. Again, on the technical side, our ERP of the future must have a common bilateral standard, which means any data from what source to any source must transfer to and from without any difficulty, whether it's within the ERP or a third-party product like Civitas, Room Scheduler, QList, any other platform out there. There must not be, we want to avoid any proprietary system hidden within a middleware. We must have the best structure moving forward. And to me, another most important facet is its user interface. It must make sense to our students of today and our students of the future. It must be agnostic, what browser you're using, what device you're using. It must be social media enabled. It must have dashboard visibility and customizable to any functionality, any device, anywhere, anytime, any language. With an interface like that, I think our investment will be long-term as opposed to looking for another solution 5 years from now. And I think there are vendors, ERP solutions out there that, along with my peers and the faculty, have sampled and looked, and we therefore are declaring that we are ready to formally release a request for proposal by February 20, 2019.
Such a tremendous amount of work has gone into investigating, studying the various platforms that are out there,
Yes, sir.
meeting after meeting, going back to 2016.
Yes, sir.
We've had vendors come and demonstrate their products and so forth. So basically, Regents, what we're doing in this staff report is doing what we said we were going to do, is come to you when we're getting ready to launch an RFP. We're still on that very front end of this situation. Obviously, none of this will go forth until it's ultimately approved and vetted with you all as this process moves on. After that is when there's a hugely, there's a large investment of human time, energy, and effort that goes in. This is a college-wide initiative
Yes.
that will ultimately touch every employee at the college. And so from the various facets. So it's a huge undertaking that'll probably take
Approximately
2
18
years.
to 24 months.
18 to 24 months. And so we open this up, again, we brought it to you for discussion to just show you our framework and where we are at this point. And we want to hear from you all, any discussion you may have.
What kind of companies would actually conduct this kind of,
Gabe, your microphone, Gabe.
Get off.
Does yours reach?
I think it does.
Maybe not. It was on earlier. There we go.
Okay. What kind of companies would actually do this kind of work, August? Who did the last one?
Right now, we have Illusion. Illusion has 3 products. There's Unidata, Colleague, and Banner, and we have their Colleague version. When we acquired it in 2008, we acquired it as DataTel. It got bought and became SunGuard, and then SunGuard Plus, and then now Illusion. I can tell you that there's 5 vendors minimum watching this board meeting, ready to hear your decision. It will be Unit 4, Workday, Jansabar, Campus Management, and Illusion, and some other minor vendors may be interested, but those 5 are the heavy players.
Are any of them local or?
None of them are local,
None.
sir.
I didn't think so.
They have employees in Texas, though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Bennett?
Couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
During registration, I was receiving some alerts that the system was down. Would that be this system?
Yeah, the
that's
existing
replacing
system,
this?
sir.
So our system was going down, and it's going to be replaced with this system.
The existing system will be put to sleep as soon as we go live, as soon as Student Services give me a signal that they are ready to go live with the new system. Yes, sir.
Okay, and are you still splitting your time between IT and construction?
I since then have hired, thank you for your support, a deputy CIO. So this is her responsibility, and soon we're going to come up and solicit a project coordinator. This will be his or her project. And also there will be an external project coordinator, kind of like construction. There will be a construction management firm that will administer this major project, because the technology part of this project is very measurable at the beginning. The amount of work is spread out to Student Services, Financial Aid, the business office, human resources, and payroll, purchasing, each one of them, and also advisors, the faculty. That's why we're way, way ahead of the curve. I can say that because usually the faculty and those users resist a massive change like this, and they are behind it. They're actually telling me, how come, when? So finally the day has come. But as far as difficulty on my side, sir, as soon as you approve, a majority of my work will be contract management. So I will be passing the work to Rito and my deputy CIO.
Okay, and we've had discussions in closed session and in open session about internal control weaknesses in the IT department. So some of them were in closed session, so I'm not going to talk about those. But my concern is that we have weaknesses there. And would it be appropriate to address those weaknesses at the time that we're implementing this thing so that in the future we no longer have those weaknesses? And in addition to that, would it be time to hire a first-class consulting firm, like a Big Four accounting firm, to come in here and analyze this thing and make certain that we don't have those weaknesses in the future? You can respond.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, August, if you want. I mean, I've got a response, but
Yes, sir.
let me just start off by saying, yes, that is, August and I just talked about that last week, and if you want to talk about where we're moving with that, we had talked about in a previous board meeting a consulting firm that would come in and basically audit those systems on the front end, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
And so we have an update on that.
Yeah, I have a standing appointment February 18, 19, 20. They can come as soon as I hear. I will confirm that they will be here to do an initial assessment. And thank you for the comment. This is the opportunity for the college to reset and redefine checks and balances from the get-go.
And who are your appointments with?
Two firms, Gartner and Deloitte.
Deloitte, okay. I recognize that name. Good.
Yes, sir. They're two of the best in.
And we'll come back to you once we've had these initial meetings to put a proposal out there. Raul, Mr. Garcia's smiling like he knows a little bit about Deloitte. There's a finance overlay there. Mr. Garcia came from that firm years before he came into higher ed. We'll come back to the board when we have those proposals prepared and when we have some recommendations.
I have another kind of question. It's not necessarily on the RFP, but in the implementation portion of it that may be something for future reference perhaps is with so many employees involved in the implementation that from previous experience I've seen that there was a need for backfilling positions and just wanting to know that we're looking at that and making arrangements in our budget for that to happen because it's impossible to implement one of these without some backfill.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Duly noted, and also I wanna give credit where credit's due. We do have very seasoned veterans still at Del Mar College. That some of them this will be the third ERP migration, both in IT and in student services, and even in faculty side.
Yes, I want to ask something like Mr. Rivas asked a while ago as far as there's no local people involved as far as the companies that y'all have?
No, sir.
And so what was the process as far as selecting the groups that were going to do it?
The
Or
process
were there any locals that applied or?
there will not be any local that do this type of work.
Oh, okay.
They're national firms.
Okay.
Or international firms.
How about clarify, this is a staff report that they're getting ready to go out for the RFP.
Exactly.
So anyone across the nation who might feel like they could respond to this RFP would have the opportunity to apply. He is anticipating who those vendors are going to be based on the comprehensive and complicated nature of the RFP. But we don't have responses yet because we won't get those until the end of March or middle of March. Is that correct? So,
Correct.
I'm sorry, did you have another question, Mr. Rivas?
I was going to ask, was this already budgeted for? Have we already
Yes, sir.
included in the budget?
We do have a budget.
Okay.
I didn't want to disclose the amount of the budget since they're watching.
That's correct. They'll come in half a penny short. I have a question about accessibility for a mobile app and for the web-based app for students with disabilities. And so I'm making an assumption that it will be fully integrated and fully
those
accessible.
will be a given.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. That's a very detailed technical requirement.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. The other question I have is I was looking at your timetable. So do you anticipate this coming back to the board for award of a contract in April, the April meeting probably, or? hopefully?
April sounds ambitious. I thought it was going to be around May. That's what we've talked about at our last meeting. Do you have a finer or more
I submitted
detailed-
a very aggressive tentative timeline in the board packet. I want to make sure that the vendors know and they can adhere to those schedules. I am very well in touch with my peers, fellow CIOs across the nation, and we are in a semi race to release RFPs. I want to get ahead and get Team A on whoever we hire. I want to make sure that we get the Team A implementers. So it's very tactical that I did that. I want them to comply with the schedule, knowing that we, as the client, can adjust backwards. So, but we
Later.
can go back to the board as early as April or May.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's our window, the latter part of spring.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. This is exciting all the way around. And we at this table probably have the least appreciation for how exciting it is for the users to be looking forward to a new ERP. So
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, moving on into our college president's report, Dr. Escamilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I begin with how the college addressed the government shutdown in recent weeks. We know that has since changed with the possibility of another shutdown potentially in front of us. However, I wanted to recognize and thank the college for its efforts in reaching out to all those affected. There were employees who were related to people in shutdowns that were affected by the government shutdown. Certainly our students, families were affected, and there were various steps taken from the foundation and financial aid, student services, and multiple areas. When we had, I was in Austin when this happened, so I know when we kicked off our efforts to reach out to those affected, there were some that came in. Dr. Silva, could you help us with any students that might have been with the services to give just a little bit more? This is an important thing that I want everyone to know. We jumped on this immediately.
Sure.
We were one of the first out there with PSAs and so forth to bring people in. Tell us a little bit about how our students were affected.
We sent out emails to students if they were affected by the shutdown, that the foundation had monies available to them as well. Okay, I'm sorry. Here we go. So we reached out to the students that they were affected by the shutdown to come in and speak to the foundation to that as well. I also want to compliment our student clubs. Our student clubs actually raised money for the local Coast Guard when they were also working without pay. So it was a two-way street. We actually did extended that to the students, and the students, you know how great our students are as well. They actually reached out, got together, and donated HEB gift cards to our local Coast Guard.
And then from our foundation, there were some students that accessed some bridge loans or anything like that. Did that occur? If you could come up, Mary, I know there was something, we activated everybody and we didn't necessarily get a lot of customers, which is a good problem.
That week where we brainstormed the idea of sending out the email, we processed about $25,000 in emergency scholarships. Most of the students didn't refer to that, but they came in during that time period. So while they didn't say, I'm asking for this money because of the government shutdown, they made their case for needing emergency tuition assistance.
Yeah, thank you. Again, we reacted quickly and responded to our community's needs to the greatest extent possible. Thankfully, everybody's back to work at the federal government, and we hope that remains.
Do we have any numbers as to how many students actually took advantage of this? Or
That's
it's got a total of 25,000.
Yeah, it's total 25,000. Right?
How many students does that help?
I don't have a number on how many students that helped, because we respond on the emergency scholarship based on what the student needs. So they may only need $500, they may need $2,500. And so I didn't break that down on numbers. I knew about 25,000 that we processed during that time period. And again, we don't know if it's specifically related to the government shutdown. We just know that the students need assistance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So moving on, any more questions? So moving on January 9th and 10th, I attended the Texas Association of Community Colleges Executive and Legislative Committee meetings in Austin, as per my responsibilities to the association in preparation for our quarterly meeting, as well as meeting with our our funders meeting. We met with various foundations, such as the Kresge, the Dell Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, several others out there, Houston Endowment and others, and we spent a good amount of time advocating for the Association of Community Colleges and seeking their continued support, because they are big supporters of the association, primarily through the Student Success Initiative. So a lot of time spent doing some fundraising there and friend raising, as well as preparation for the meeting that subsequently took place, our quarterly meeting that subsequently took place on the 23rd of January. On the 16th of January, on January, right out here in the foyer just behind us, we partnered with Western Governors University for an MOU signing and a partnership there that really solidified a long-standing partnership. My dear friend and colleague, Dr. Steve Johnson, Chancellor of WGU, came down, and we got to sign a really nice MOU that, again, strengthened our students. And WGU is really designed for a student who has been perhaps in and out of school and has accumulated a fair amount of hours, and they work with those students to and really carry across their credits from Del Mar to a four-year degree. And they do some really innovative things. It's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of people, like I like to say. WGU is a great partner out there, and I wanted to commend them for this partnership. On the 17th, I was proud to be the keynote speaker for Dr. Hector P. Garcia's birthday celebration. It was a wonderful time spent. And what I wanted to add about this was we were able, through the support of our foundation and generous donors, we were able to bring approximately 40 people, if I'm not mistaken. The most of those people from the college came from the Next Generation Leadership Academy. And since I was a keynote speaker, I took advantage of creating a speech that really spoke about imparting the values of Dr. Hector and all the things that he has meant to me as I grew up here in the community, and what he meant to my family and how my parents raised us to really not only respect but revere and listen to this great American. So I wrote my speech in that regard, and I always talked about imparting this to the next generation. Well, what better group to impart these values and these thoughts and these words to than our own next generation of leaders who are employees at the college? And so most of them were able to attend. Most of the 25 were able to attend. And it was a really, really fantastic time. And I just really was honored to be the keynote speaker, and I just wanted to share that with you all. Again, on the 23rd, I had my quarterly meeting at the association. You can imagine, as we're starting off the next legislative session, that there is much, much work to be done over there. My role as at the association has grown, and like I was saying earlier to a couple of faculty members, be careful what you ask for with responsibility, because they will shovel it over, and so I'm very, very busy over there. And on the 30th, I am proud to say that that was Community College Day for the state of Texas, and Del Mar College showed up to the Capitol in Austin in a big, big way. Thank you to the Regents who were able to attend. I think there was 4 Regents that were able to attend, and we took approximately 65 students, staff members, a few faculty members as well, and we, in a good way, stormed the Capitol and had just a wonderful, wonderful time. The part that I missed, because I was with the association talking to the Senate Chair of Higher Ed, was the time where Chairman J.M. Lozano, Todd Hunter, and Abel, our local delegation, recognized the gallery where Del Mar College students were, and I understood the whole gallery stood up, and it was all Del Mar College students. So it was a big, big day, big, big notification, big, big opportunity for Del Mar College to promote itself and support our other 49 institutions, sister institutions across the state. It was a great day, and there's still much work to be done. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Escamilla? I'd like to give an opportunity for Regents who attended Community College Day to share their thoughts and any comments you have about Community College Day. Regent Estrada?
I think Dr. Escamilla probably said it all, but again, I'd like to say that, yes, he wasn't there when the students stood up at the House of Representatives, and I think it was a learning experience for them. Some of them had never been to the Capitol, much less to the House of Representatives. And from what I understand, we were the second. Alamo Community College had the most students there, and then Del Mar had quite a few too, so we were second in line. Also, on the other hand, we visited with our three representatives, and we got some good information from them, but they really haven't started the session, so there's more to come. But I was especially proud of one of my favorites, Representative Todd Hunter, who said that, well, he's very pleased with his new committee assignment because it is a very important committee. There's only 13 people on that committee, but they deal with very important issues such as regulation and deregulation of electricity, telecommunications, cybersecurity, and then also he talked about, let's see, I'm trying to remember, the science and technology. They were going to be very involved in that, and they were going to be involved with the higher education aspect of that. And other than that, you know, I'd like to give the other regions an opportunity to share more.
We were very well represented up there, and it was actually a learning experience for me as well, since that was my first trip up there. Great access to the representatives, though, and they all, the three representatives that we met with, they all have a great deal of respect for Del Mar College. So it was just a wonderful day. Good, really good representation up there.
Mary, go ahead. Well, I can agree with everybody. We did have a good turnout. I thought it was the largest group that we've ever taken, but I was corrected that one time we took 3 buses up there, which would have been a lot bigger. But the students were, I mean, I can't say enough. I mean, I'm not saying that they were supposed to misbehave or anything, but they were very respectful. I know that one that was sitting in my area, Ed and I were sitting with the students. He had one side and I had the other side. And one of them was wearing a cap, and they said something about taking their caps off, and right away he turned around and asked me, am I supposed to take my cap off? That's what the man said. So they respected the rules, asked a lot of questions, both from the representatives, from the senator, and even whatever I could contribute or we could contribute, telling them about the legislative process. One other thing that we had the full day at the Capitol, and I want to say that since I have mobility issues, I had a little scooter with me that I probably don't need anymore, because now our representatives are not way back in the annex anymore. They've moved up to the main area, and there's not that much walking involved. But they're moving up in seniority, and I'm very proud of that fact. We also had a reception that evening that was very informative. As Mrs. Estrada said, I thought we were just going to eat and have a drink, and I said, no, they lectured us. They talked to us. One of the co-founders of Texas Tribune, which I follow religiously almost every day to find out what's going on up in Austin and in politics, gave us a point-blank explanation of the ins and outs of the legislature, the process, who's in charge and who's not in charge, and he predicted what's going to be happening, especially with the property tax issue, before the governor even had his press conference and release. But very informative day.
It was a very informative day, and great interaction for us and the students with our representatives and with Senator Hinojosa, although that had to be kind of brief because of his limited time, but it was great. And it was also wonderful from my perspective to get to spend time with some of the students who were there and to hear of their stories and so on. So altogether, a very worthwhile undertaking, and I commend the staff who were riding the bus back and forth that day with the students, because I know that was a really long day for y'all.
Well, thank you all for representing the Board of Regents at that event, and we sincerely appreciate it and appreciate the time that you took to do that, and the students as well. So I hope that Dr. Silva, you will pass on our appreciation to the students who attended, and again, we know that they may like excuses to get out of class, but getting up at 2:30 in the morning to catch a 4 o'clock bus or whatever time it was is probably not what they bargained for. But we know that was a good commitment on their time as well.
And some of
I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on to our pending business list, and you'll see that I want to call one thing to your attention. We normally do our annual ethics update at this February meeting, but Augie and I had a long discussion about that, and with a new board member coming on in March anyway, we thought we would just go ahead and defer that till the March meeting. So we'll do our annual ethics update in the March meeting. And you'll also see we'll do some additional policy revisions and professional contract reviews. April, we've got a Civitas update, which I know we'll all be looking forward to that, and our SACS update as well, and then we'll have some discussions on tax abatement issues. So if there's other things that you think are missing or that we need to consider for agenda items, please let me know, and we'll make sure we get those on the list in the next 2 or 3 months. So, any questions about our pending business items? If not, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. All of these items are of a routine or administrative nature, and the board has been given background and supportive materials on each. We have items 3, 4, and 5. Any of those items need to be pulled for separate consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Also move, Madam Chair. Or
Mr.
second.
Mr.
I'll second.
Strada moves, Mr. Rivas seconds. Any discussion? Is there any public comment on our consent agenda items? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to our regular agenda, and first up will be a discussion and possible action regarding an internal audit report. Ms. McDonald is going to introduce that, and we do have our internal auditors here to actually make the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. As part of our continued efforts to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of college processes, today Daniel Graves and Brandon Tanos with Weaver will present the following internal audit reports for board acceptance. They will present the grants management audit. This is the initial first audit. They will present follow-up audit reports on admissions and registrar, financial aid, human resources, accounts payable, and then they will also give you a status update on our fiscal year 19 plan. Oh, there.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. We do have quite a lot to cover since our last time we presented was August, and we presented to you the previous fiscal year internal audit report, the annual report. We do have a lot because we've completed a lot of activities as part of the internal audit plan. So I will keep things moving. We do, as Tammy mentioned, we do have our initial internal audit over grants management. This is the first time grants management has been audited since we've been your internal auditor, so that's been several years now. We also have completed 4 of the 6 planned internal audit follow-ups for this year, and we are actually in the progress of completing one of the others, or we're in the planning stages about to execute field work over that, as well as our second internal audit for the year over information security, and third over student services. And then I will tell you where we're at with our overall plan. We presented a table for you just so you can have it in summary format and see where we're at with each individual internal audit and follow-up, as well as the annual requirements for our risk assessment update and then our annual internal audit report. Grants management, we started our field work on grants management back in October. That ran all the way up through December, and then with the break, we finished our reporting in late January. This internal audit covered the entire scope of grants management, including the grants office, the finance office, and the Del Mar College Foundation. So we looked at grants holistically across the entire college and looked for compliance and then also our opportunities to improve from just the overall perspective. You'll see we started that internal audit with a sort of soup to nuts approach, looking at overall grant administration, and then from the very first interaction we have with grants, starting at research and applying for grants all the way through the contracting, funding, reporting requirements, all the way through a grant closeout, and looked at those facets as they interact across all the college. From that, we had 6 findings. We had 3 objectives, and through those 3 objectives, we identified 6 findings. And the report received an overall satisfactory rating If you'll recall, and there's a strong, a satisfactory, and an unsatisfactory rating. So this received a satisfactory rating with objectives A and B, our first two having a satisfactory, and then the third over user access receiving a strong rating. And I think I commend both the process owners for that rating and IT. I think that's just an increased awareness over IT controls, specifically related to user access, that is a direct result of that keen awareness and that emerging understanding throughout the college. Objective A is the design of the process. So we looked at the internal controls related through the process to ensure both those compliance aspects, also operating efficiency and effectiveness, and identified 15 controls in place that help manage and control the areas of grant management. But then we also identified those 6 findings as part of the design. They all have a design component associated with them, so they're reported in Objective A. A lot of those have to do with standardization. If I had to summarize grants for you at Del Mar College, I would say that it has a decentralized and a centralized component. There's a lot of decentralization as individual departments, instructors apply, research, and administer grants. But then there's a centralized component in your grants office that helps with tracking the dollars and helping report from both a financial and compliance aspect. And there's a need for standardization, and that's because of the decentralization. Having some unified processes throughout the college, we think would go a long way in enhancing the internal control environment. You'll see where those 15 controls live throughout the process by sub-process, and you'll also see where each one of those findings also presents opportunities for improvement in each one of those processes as well. Objective B actually is the effectiveness of the internal controls that are in place. So we not only identified those 15, but then we went and tested them. As part of the design issues, we did test to see the impact that some of the design issues could have, and that's where we have the 4 areas for improvement related to Objective B. And then Objective C, as I said, was we evaluated user access to make sure that the personnel within Del Mar College had appropriate access to the grants information. So that's not only financial information, but that's also performance information that has different aspects with student interactions, FERPA requirements, and we did not identify any issues with the user access within the 2 big systems, being the grants modules of Colleague and the Amplifund application that helps track grants. So that is a huge positive for, I think, the college. This is one of the first audits that we've had that has not had anything related to user access as part of the findings, and we almost always include user access as part of the actual evaluation over the grants. So that's really commendable for the college in this aspect. Brandon's going to go over each of the findings individually at a high level. We did have, of the 6, we had 3 high risk rated and 3 moderate risk rated, and he'll go over those with the recommendations as well. Nope, one more time. There you go.
Actually, if you don't mind sharing the stand-up
one?
podium,
Sure.
just because that's a stronger microphone, and the other
Absolutely.
one's kind of cutting out a little bit.
problem.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
All right. So as Dan alludes to, we have 6 findings, and for most part, these are overarching college-wide that we were looking at for the standardization of practices and procedures. So when we talk about these 6 findings, these were areas that we looked in mostly in the design evaluation piece and confirmed through testing of effectiveness. So in our first one is the college didn't really have defined, standardized grant management procedures that outline the expectations for the managing and monitoring of grants. Since we talked about there's a decentralized procedures that happen here at the college, is having that of a college-wide standard. Also in finding 2 is the development and dissemination of grant management training. So there is no defined grant management training for all those that apply, utilize, monitor, or manage grants. There is grant training that happens for specific grants, but when we talk about it's the institution's training on how to manage and monitor, that was lacking. And third, we have grant application and award tracking. So we did not have a consistent process to enforce some of the procedures that were occurring with the applying for grant and tracking those within the system. This primarily had to do with, we would talk about grants that we've had at the college for a long period of time. Most all new grants did go through the formal procedures and practices required. In finding 4, we talk about dissemination of grant requirements. So this has to do with the actual, once we have a grant and we've contracted with that grantor, that we disseminate all the requirements to everybody that utilizes or manages and monitors that grant. Finding 5 we had, and finding 6 are similar, but they are a different part of the process area evaluated. For here, we talk about the review and approval of funding and financial reports. There was a lack of formal review and approval that's documented to verify that those funding reports that are submitted that have financial requests for reimbursement are reviewed and approved internally before they're sent to the grantor. And then finding 6 is similar, but regarding the programmatic reporting. So are there, reaching the goals of each grant? Are we reaching those milestones and making sure those are reviewed, reconciled, and approved internally prior to being sent to the grantor? And so from those findings, we had recommendations, of course, which mirror those findings. So, of course, the first one is to formalize and document the overarching procedures for managing and monitoring those grants by the principal investigators. 2 is develop and implement grants management training for all those that utilize and manage and monitor grants. 3 was to enforce the current policy that all personnel intending to apply for a grant must submit the grant proposal form to the grants office for review and approval. 4 was require the principal investigators to identify and communicate those grant requirements to the various stakeholders throughout the college as part of that contracting process. And of course, 5 and 6 are similar but are different parts of that, with 5 being implement a review process to ensure all funding and financial required reports are validated with the appropriate support and are submitted timely. And 6 is also implementing a policy and procedure for enforcing college management to review and approve those programmatic reports prior to being submitted to the grantors.
So you'll see in the report for the period that we evaluated, there was about $30.5 million in grants funds across 17 different grants that are administered by different individuals throughout the college. And you'll see that those findings and recommendations really center around standardization across all of those. One being an overarching policy that governs that, but then having standardized reviews, approvals, and then even standardized training that's applicable to everyone, both from a federal level and even on college procedures, because most of these grants are federal related, and so there are federal requirements associated with them. So that, if the one message is to part of this is standardization. Management has responded to each one of these findings, and I know management's here available if you have questions for them about their responses. But they have committed to having each one of those remediated by December 2019. So that's coming up quick, even though that seems like a long way, 10 months. There's a lot to be documented and standardized within that 10-month time frame. Most of those they've committed to having completed by May of 2019, so that's even a lot faster. The last one requiring some other standardization is finally in December. But again, those all center around findings 4, 5, and 6, all have to do with written policies and procedures that they've committed to drafting and then enforcing, as well as finding 1 also has a lot to do with those. Finding 2 and 3 have some training and some other document standardization components in it. But we think if these get addressed, that the college will have a much more streamlined, much more communicative process across all the different departments and divisions between the foundation, the finance department, the grants office, that will help the college overall from an operational capacity. So any questions about the grants audit?
I have a question, but I don't know, Mark, I don't know if you can answer it. What are we doing as far as developing and implementing the grant training for the managers?
So the first thing we're doing, the first thing that we're doing is we're going to be moving the grants office over to the business office for Mr. Garcia to manage and oversee as part of his operation there. We're making that move. We may have already, I don't even know if we've executed it. Have we made that move yet? I know we were about to.
Yes, so I met with the leadership at the foundation and also the team that's there, and so we do have a plan. I know that there's a couple of objectives that team needs to finalize by, I believe, the May timeframe, and so I want to be sensitive to that. And then after that is a full-blown transition where I'm inheriting the area, and the training is great. It's a perfect idea, but the sequencing needs to be as follows: is moving the department to my umbrella, centralizing some functions to get some synergy out of that, and that is what I call the post and pre-awarding process, and having better communication there. The other component to remedy some of the issues is really technology. Who's submitting a proposal and trying to figure out who has priorities and defining what those priorities are. So it starts with technology as well. Good thing is we're going through an RFP, I heard today, that we'll be exploring some vendors in the next coming months, and so we're going to look at what some of those modules have to offer for our needs. We do have some software applications that we're using today, but I'm not sure if it's exactly meets our needs today. So more to come on that.
Are all the grant managers full-time Del Mar employees, Ro?
Sure, yes. The area today has full-time positions. There are no part-time positions. The decentralization side of the business is really what I call the technical expertise. It's really my faculty who really understands the nature of the proposal, of the request, because there's certain technical pieces that, I'm a numbers guy. I can't tell you anything from academia. And so they play a critical role in helping put the proposal together and monitoring the performance indicators that we say we're going to do. So the question is, now that we're going to centralize it, hopefully there'll be some more synergy, and we'll be reaching out to those individuals a little bit more on a regular basis. That's the vision.
Yeah, a lot of the grant managers, are, like Rose said, are faculty. And so you have a lot of National Science Foundation grants, and those are the ones that have the expertise to go out and say, yes, we can use this money to help further the cause here at Del Mar. The coordination part he was talking about is a lot of the compliance reporting, coordinating with the finance office to make sure that they know we have another grant coming, that we just haven't applied for one, and then all of a sudden this money shows up, and we now have this money we didn't know about. So there's a lot of that communication and coordination that the centralization will go a long way to help.
Question. If I'm understanding it correctly, we don't have standardized procedures and we don't have training. Does that mean we've never had standardized procedures?
No, not necessarily. So the standardized procedures are standardized to help make sure that some of that communication comes in. So there's elements of standardized procedures and practices that are in place, absolutely. Is there a documented procedure to then communicate and guide everyone as part of the grants administration? No, not currently, but there's a lot of practices in place. So we didn't have any findings related to untimely financial reports, non-compliant financial reports. We tested all of those, and so those procedures are in line. So we're not out of compliance with any federal standards, especially related to federal money. It's the standardization of practices of how we administer grants as a college that's not documented and standardized.
It looks to me like if we don't have training and we don't have the formal procedures, we've got some risk there.
You do, and that's why we have a finding.
Okay.
As part of the training, I would go as far as to say that your grant administrators who are who are faculty don't know necessarily the federal procurement laws, which I think is important for them to know if they're administering the grant and helping select purchases. We do have a purchasing department that's aware of those, and so the training is meant to help communicate those standards to everyone who are involved in the grant process, not just individuals with responsibilities for individual components.
Mr. Garcia has a response as well.
Yes, Mr. Regent Bennett, I just want to add that there's really two components to the training. Number one is the technical piece. That is understanding the grant, the intent, and what have you. I think we're really strong there. If you look at our single audit findings, they're very small. doesn't speak to non-compliance piece. So I can tell you that's very strong. It's the administrative side of the business that definitely is a big opportunity to redefine what that looks like, put it, write down those procedures, and then do the training so that we can all be in lockstep in what the program should look like here at Del Mar.
I have just one question. So the pre and post award will both be under you, Mr. Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, on your follow-up, are you going to do a initial follow-up after May of 2019 and then a full follow-up after December? Or when are you scheduled to follow up on these findings and test to make sure that they're done adequately?
The plan within the current internal audit plan and budget is to follow up on those in fiscal year 2020. So that would
Okay.
not be after May, after the initial implementation.
Okay.
We do have status meetings and meet with management to see how well things are going, let them know that yes, we're still checking up on it, we're aware of the changes that occur, but we do not have planned formal procedures to go do a follow-up until fiscal year 2020.
And I'm wondering if we can ask for a interim report from the president then by June 2019 to let us know where we are halfway through the year regarding this particular finding. Just give us a quick report in June so we can, and again, you'll test it for adequacy. Is that the right word?
Effectiveness, adequacy, effectiveness, yes.
Effectiveness.
We will look at both the design of the changes implemented and test the effectiveness of those with actual transactional testing when it's represented to us that they are ready for that action.
Good.
We have that noted.
And then do we have, are there any board policies that need to be written or revised as a result of this? Are there board policy level issues, or is this really procedural?
This is mainly procedural.
Yeah, I don't- none that
Board
come to mind.
policies, we didn't have any issue with. We start with board policy as our criteria because that's the governing piece of documentation that governs the college. So that's what we start with as part of our evaluation criteria. And we found no issues with compliance with policy or suggested revisions to policy either.
Okay, so our policies don't need to be strengthened in this regard?
I
Is
don't
that your
believe so, no.
recommendation? Okay. Any other questions or comments on this portion of the report? We've got more to go.
More to go, yes. We have quite a few follow-ups. And so the follow-ups, as you know, we've had prior internal audits, and these are the procedures that we do to validate exactly what we're talking about, to validate the design of the changes and then test those the effectiveness of those as well. We did all our follow-ups at once, so you'll see common timing throughout. Because there were just a few in each area, we sent a team out here for about 2 weeks, and we looked at everything that we could within that 2-week time frame. And so you'll see we performed most of those in the fall, met in December to go over everything with management, reported in January. Admissions and registrar had 8 findings that we were following up on, and you'll see on the table that they remediated all but 2 of those. And 2 of those they made effort and progress on, but they're partially remediated. So there were 25 total that we found in the 2016 internal audit. As it stands today, there are only 2 that remain open, and those are partially remediated. And you'll see why when we talk about those 2 items, those are really what I'll call big ticket items. They're really long-term solutions, really centered around the changes that are coming or have been coming and are still being put in place with the degree map and efforts that Rito and his team have been going through there. It's Guided Pathways Initiative is a big initiative. We know that's coming from the state. It's all in an effort to make sure students spend the financial aid and their time wisely towards things that matter for them. And we've seen that across several of our community college clients and very similar Guided Pathways programs. And with that and the long-term implementation, that's why these 2 are partially remediated, because those plans are still in place, are moving forward. There's training, and the advisor training and continuing education really just center around making sure that those who interact with students to get them registered for the right courses at the right time in their degree plan, they're all knowledgeable of that. And so this Guided Pathways Initiative is really helping do that. It's just not fully in place yet to a place where we can test it, and so that's why these 2 are partially remediated. So any questions on that, or I don't know if Rito wants to add anything to that.
Let me add one more thing, Regents. Also, advising is going to be part of our QEP when we do our SACS accreditation, so that's going to be another part of where, like Dan says, a big ticket item. So advising, you'll be hearing quite a bit of what we're going to be doing with advising, not just with guided pathways, but also because of the QEP.
QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan for our reaffirmation period. And so that is going to be a long-term project. Again, that's what you mean by big ticket. They're long-term, big items. Pathways will be at a institute tomorrow, a couple of regents and myself, and the day after. Again, these are things that are still evolving. The good news is we're in the current with the rest of the colleges.
Any questions about the follow-up procedures over admissions and registrar?
Go ahead.
All right, we'll talk about, well, this is the summary recommendations continue to establish those procedures. And as you see in the report, management has responded to those. Financial aid we did at the same time. Financial aid, we only had one open finding through financial aid, and this is one that we see quite a bit actually in several different higher education institutions that we're in. It's all related to the return of federal funds, and it's a complicated process. This one is still open. A lot of that has to do with the transition of your head of financial aid. We had a retirement, we had an interim director, we now have a new director of financial aid. However, when we came in and we actually looked at some of the changes that were in place, some of the self-auditing that was meant to occur, it did occur, but we still found issues within some of the return of federal funds. And so net, we actually didn't, we remitted too much on behalf of the college, so we're actually in a positive position as it relates to our position with the Department of Education. However, those are funds that Del Mar just doesn't have now. And so it's a very complicated process that takes a lot of inputs. There's a big technology component to this, and so I'm really excited to see, we've been as part of those discussions as part of the ERP to see that come about, because there are some system limitations with what the current software that you have. And in all of these audits, we have a lot of system limitations, and this is one of them, to be able to accurately calculate the return of federal funds. It's very manual at this moment. And so we brought that to the attention of the new director. They actually have gone to the Department of Ed Federal Student Aid Conference and taken a lot of best practices back from that, and that is their response, that they've are implementing some of those best practices to help cross-train and have more people available to look at the return of federal funds, make sure that the inputs that we're using are the right inputs so that the calculations can be accurate and those returns can be submitted accurately back to the Department of Ed. Any questions?
No, that's not a question. Just a comment. I met the director of financial aid about 2 weeks ago, and he seems to be very knowledgeable. I think he brings a lot of experience from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, so I think that's a plus for Del Mar.
I would agree. Yeah, and you know, it's welcome to Del Mar. Here's an internal audit finding that you have to go fix. Kind of feel bad, but I think it's a great intro into the college as well, to say, hey, you've got an internal audit department here that is willing to help you find the holes and help you fix them, so that they don't find them on their own. And hopefully, you know, we're looking forward to having a great working relationship to help them along with this as well. Like I said, it's been in existence since 2016. We've been working on it. Technology has hindered it a little bit because it is such a manual process, from just gathering the inputs to know what we have to use as part of the calculation, much less having to perform the calculation. And so I think some of the technology that's down the road with the implementation of the new ERP will be really helpful as well. Anything else? Any other questions? Well, Brandon is a key part of our team, has been on all these internal audits, and he led 2 of these, and so I'm going to let him cover the update on human resources and AP.
Great. Thank you, Dan. So we're talking about our follow-up of human resources that we performed during that same period. So we were validating the action taken on 5 open findings. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the table. And so as you can see from the original total of 9, previously we had 4 that were remediated, and through this evaluation we looked at 5. A lot of progress has been made in HR under Jerry and Tammy, and we had 4 that were remediated and 1 that is partially remediated. And the partially remediated finding was actually a lot of different components go in there. So this was incomplete college policies. Overall, there was about 7 different policies that we identified in the original audit that needed to be updated. And since then, 4 have been completely implemented and distributed. And right now there is 3 that are still, that have been drafted and approved internally and are being anticipated to be submitted to the board for approval in April of 2019. So those should be coming to you all hopefully later in this spring for review and consideration. So management has let us know they've worked on that, and that's the plan, which we will meet with them separately after that time frame to see if that has been approved so that we can show those as being completed. Any questions on human resources before we move on? Okay. Now we're going to move on to accounts payable follow-up. So this was the first follow-up that we have performed of accounts payable since doing the audit in 2018. And we were evaluating the 5 findings that were identified in that original report. So from the table, we evaluated all 5 of those findings, and we identified that 3 were remediated and that 2 were partially remediated. Within those 2 that are partially, there has been effort made by management to address the risk in the findings that we identified. One is the P-card policy and procedure. Management has developed internally some drafts of a P-card guidelines, which has to do with how we utilize, track, and manage our P-cards, which is going through their internal review process that will be implemented upon completion and submitted. To all that have P cards, so they are all in the same consistency and understand the expectations. And the final one we have open that's partially is inappropriate user access. Due to some of the AP roles, there's a risk where some people have ability to create and approve vouchers, and so we have discussed with management, and they are putting in practices to restrict that. I know with the new ERP system that's going to come and more role-based security, they will be addressing those risks to make sure that the appropriate segregation of duties is in place for that user access.
And with the user access specifically, wanted to address that there have been secondary, what we will call detective controls put in place for the user access. However, we would like to see some of the user access further removed. The immediate concern that we had with some of the access regarding one of the banking applications was removed. We validated that. I think on our last update, we informed you of that as well, so that's still the case. We do have some secondary controls put in place, but we'd like to see that further remediated, and management has committed to doing that no later than February 15th of this year. So the detective controls are in place. We tested those. They seem to be working, but to further remediate, we think it's appropriate to go ahead and revise some of the user access within the colleague application.
So when you have these high-risk areas, you're not actually saying that anything, there's been no activity that you can find that is unauthorized. You're just saying the risk is there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we do both the design and the effectiveness testing, even when we find a design issue, because we want to make sure that we appropriately gauge the impact that it could have. And so while we did identify the ability, we'll say, we did not identify any activity that occurred of inappropriate use, but the risk still is there because there's an ability to do that. So that's why we do both sets of testing as well.
So the user access, does that overlap with IT?
In this instant, no. There is a larger IT component that we've talked about in closed session before, and that will actually is a good entree into the current things that we're doing with IT, because we are performing current follow-up procedures. They'll start actually on Monday, next Monday as well, to follow up on those remediation activities. We've been working with IT very closely on helping and consulting with what they plan to do with those activities. That should help further remediate this, yes, but I'll not discuss those in too much detail because those were a closed session item last time.
And last time we spoke about AP, we had this segregation of duty issue.
Mhm.
And my concern at that time was that we don't have enough people if we don't have segregated duties in a $100 million operation. Are we understaffed?
We did not do a time study as part of this. What we did do is identify where there is a secondary review put in place. And so I think determining whether or not that strain puts an undue burden on the staff is more a question for our Raul and his staff as well, because we haven't done a time study to say it takes 10 minutes to process this and all. We haven't gone to that depth.
But I expect a lack of segregation of duties in a small organization, not in one this size. And so I question again, are we understaffed?
Mr. Bennett, I'll address that, and I think Mr. Garcia will probably chime in as well. We've been talking about this for some time, and one of the charges with Mr. Garcia's onboarding now all of 7 months or 8 months has been assessing the team's strength and needs for more FTEs in the area. He's looking at that. I'm waiting for his recommendations, especially as we come up on a budget cycle. So I'm standing by and expecting there to be that. I think both in the business office and in IT, those have been some areas of discussion that we've had here at these particular audit discussions, and those continue to be backfilled in some cases, and in some cases, we're just going to have to generate from whole cloth the positions needed. Mr. Garcia.
You know, that's a very difficult question to answer. I guess it all depends on the size of the organization, but at the same token, it also depends on the technology that we have in place. You know, one of the control features that we have in this process is that we do submit an authorized file to the banking system, and they're the ones that are processing the checks. They are also validating that the check request or the file is correct. And I think some of the solutions that Weaver is proposing is going to help remediate or reduce the level of risk of any unauthorized request for payment. But, you know, if we can leverage technology, I continue to partner up with the big institutions who allow for us to submit a file and they validate certain pieces, then we can pretty much strengthened, and I think we're almost there, the front-end controls where someone's reviewing and approving the digital file. So, I mean, I recognize that small organizations may still be working on a little check register at the office. Our operations are a little bit different that allows us to leverage a little bit more the digital world or digital software that exists today. That's what I see so far.
I get concerned when I see inadequate internal controls or inadequate separation of duties in the accounts payable system. It's very concerning. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Or not on, I mean, on this section? I know you have a couple more slides.
A couple more, not many. Yeah, and I do think, again, with the new ERP, and Mr. Bennett, to your standpoint or your point is establishing appropriate internal controls, and just like August had said, now's the time that we now get to sort of reset the gauge
and build around
implementation, because how you configure your ERP. I mean, we consult on ERP configurations. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to do it here because we're your internal auditor, but we can also provide insight into things that we know, especially regarding internal controls, as that ERP is configured, so that appropriate internal controls can be established within the systems, including things like positive pay, appropriate segregation of duties, user access rights. And so I think, you know, I'm really excited about it. We have a couple different clients who are on the same colleague system that are also looking for new ERPs, and so it's timely and relevant. With that, the two internal audit activities we have, or actually we have three, but two of those three are related to IT. And one of those is actually our internal audit, our limited scope internal audit over IT security. And so we have our IT security team. We've met with August. We've gone through planning. We will hit the field next week and be actually looking at the design and some of the implementation of a lot of the information security controls. So that includes both perimeter and network security. So what's coming in, what's going out, as far as also physical access, privacy compliance, mobile devices, as well as risk assessment and managing third parties. So it's a big area, but I think timely as part of what we're talking about of ERPs, and to Regent Bennett's comment about making sure that we're set up now for a new ERP system to come underneath an internal control structure. The same with the IT internal controls. We have presented that before. We are following up on those again in an effort to make sure that we've got all the right internal controls within our IT department established, ready for a new ERP system. So those are coming both this week. We're doing both at the same time for a couple different reasons. One, there's a little bit of overlap, and then two, to just help alleviate any of the time and commitment of August and his staff to make sure that we're just efficient as possible. The last internal audit we have is student services. So that's going to talk and cover advising to the extent that we haven't covered that yet. Student tutoring, counseling, also compliance for and activities with students with disabilities, and student disciplinary actions. We're in the planning stages of that audit right now, and that will be executed just after spring break. So welcome back from spring break. Internal auditors are here. But we'll do that and report back to you when that audit's finished. The last item, we do have one other follow-up that will be performed just before spring break, and then we have our annual internal audit that will be due to you. It's due by November 1st. We anticipate bringing that up in the August board meeting to be approved. So went through those last couple ones fairly quickly. Does anyone have any questions over the scopes of the IT or the student services follow-ups, audits? All right. Well, thank you for your time. Was a lot, but excited to have a lot of improvement from an internal audit standpoint, and we'll perform follow-ups on all the open items in the fiscal year 2020 as part of that plan.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you for your time.
We do need to have an action item to accept that internal audit report. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Bennett moves to accept, and Ms. Hutchison seconds that motion. Any other comments or questions from the board? Are there any public comments related to agenda item number 6? All those in favor of the action to accept the internal audit report, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now we're going to have our quarterly investment report. Mr. Garcia, do you want to introduce that, or Dr. Escamilla? Mr. Garcia?
Go ahead. Linda Patterson's here to join us, and I think Mr. Garcia, you can go ahead and introduce her and bring her on up as part of our quarterly investment report. Linda, we missed you. You've been gone a few cycles, it seems.
Yes. Good. I made Ron stay home so I could come down.
Yes. Good. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to introduce Linda, who's going to be talking to us about the quarterly investment reports. She's going to give us some market insight overall, and then talk about our position in terms of investments and our liquidity levels. Just want to take this opportunity to, with the government shutdown, I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable that we did have a strong liquidity position going into this whole discussion around the shutdown. The combined cash and investments in our operating funds in December was about $56.6 million in operating funds. With a monthly burn rate of $7 million, that means that the college can continue to operate for up to 8 months with no other additional cash flow. So that's my 2 cents for now. Now I'm going to let Linda take it away with her report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and it is nice to be back. I want to give you, this report is the end of your quarter in November. So of course we've had a lot of volatility. Wow, that's interesting. A lot of volatility since then, and a lot of things going on in the market. But as Mr. Garcia said, I think one of the things that you'll see is that the strategy that's been part and parcel of the portfolio for many years is one that has served you very well. Make sure that you have the liquidity that you need, and it's not just the money that's sitting liquid, but the money that's invested that was planned to mature and pay bills on an ongoing basis. So I know you have a long and pretty darn exciting agenda this evening, so I'll make it short. But I think it's important to know there's so much volatility right now. It makes you wonder about the markets. It makes you wonder about the safety of funds. And indeed, that is based on two big narratives going on. I look at it as the narrative of the negative, all of the bad events. We have Brexit going on. We have Italy, Venezuela, Syria. We have event after event that is very negative and that creates a negative feeling in the markets. And as such, since the end of November, what has happened is in October, September, you remember that Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve was saying that he was looking forward to 3 rate hikes in 2019. By December, after the end of this report, then he was looking at 2 because there was a softening of the data and a softening of our economy. Now we're looking at none, basically. Potentially 1 additional hike in rates, but because you have all of these events going on, you get a very uncertain market. And when markets are uncertain, they're scared, and they run into safety. And where you invest is the Treasury and agency market, and that's where safety exists. And you'll see it when we look at the yield curve. It's very, very clear. But the other side of that coin is that there's great news out there. You've obviously heard about the payrolls the last 2 months or so. We're running at over 200,000 each month. And that's really strong, and we're starting to see the wage pressures from that. So in that case, you get the good news balanced with the bad news, but there's this overriding trade and Brexit and international geopolitical situations that create more of a tension in the markets. And the 2 graphs that you're looking at there, you can see where we had the one on the top is the federal funds dot plot. And that's the members of the FOMC, or the Federal Open Markets Committee, and you can see they're coming down in their anticipation of having additional rate increases, which have served the college very, very well. The bottom one is GDP, and you can see part of where that negative comes from. GDP has slowed down. We indeed will probably go to 2% growth this year instead of 3%, but the entire world is doing that. So it's not, and we're actually the healthiest in the world right now. It is going to be a bumpy ride, definitely. We have the curve going a little bit inverted, and that's very troublesome to many in the markets because it's not a precursor to recessions, but it has been an indicator, one of the indicators of recessions in the past. And this is not another great recession. We have recessions all the time. A recession, remember, is just 2 consecutive months of slowing in the economy. And so there's a possibility that it's out there, and that makes the Fed slow down in their hikes. So we might possibly, I'm not in this camp, but we could possibly see a situation where you get a decrease, you get a cut in rates later on in the year. The other big thing that's happening is represented in that bottom chart, which is very, very scary. And that is the deficits and the debts that we're dealing with. And when you have the country running at 100 or a little over 100% in debt to the GDP of the country, that's an amazing statistic and one that has to be addressed. One of the ways that the Fed is preparing itself for higher debt and for potentially a little bit of a slowdown is that they are normalizing their balance sheet. And this was something we saw, and I'd talked to you many times about QE and quantitative easing as they as they bought mortgage-backed securities and treasuries on the long end, and they bought them to keep the rates down. And so what's happening now is they're starting to normalize them, and that's just simply one of the things that's bothering the market right now. You can see the trouble. You can see right here on the solid red line exactly why people were worried. I updated this until December. At the end of January, actually, that inversion in the curve has come back up again. But look at the short end, which is over on the left-hand side. That's the federal funds rate. That's the liquidity rate for banks and the markets overall. And you can see that ever since we were down in the zero rate environment, that has been clicking up, clicking up, clicking up. And you see it looks exact because that's exactly what's happening. They're taking it up at 1/4 of a point each time for the last, 8 times. And so what you see there is what Del Mar has been using on the liquid end of your portfolio. And that's one reason that you have so much liquidity, is because there wasn't a lot of pickup by going out longer than that. So the strategy was to stay a little bit shorter. Now with all the uncertainty coming in, we're advising and we're looking towards and talking with your staff about maybe extending a little bit, just out into the 3-month, the 6-month area, even possibly to the 1-year area. And that's because there is a possibility that that curve will dip down. There's just as much possibility to go up, but we'd like to make sure that you have some rates locked in case we do get a downdraft out there, which is quite possible. You can see it, especially with the kind of volatility that you hear about on the stock side every single day. And remember, when people are buying stocks and happy about buying stocks, it's up about 100 a day or 150. Where are they getting the money from? They're getting the money from the Treasury, and when they pull it out of the Treasury market, then the rates go up a little bit. But when they get concerned, it goes back down again as that money comes back in again. And you can read it. It is truly just a chart of what people are thinking and what they're afraid of. So how has this affected your portfolio? Just in looking at this, you can see the makeup of your entire portfolio, the bonds and the operating funds. Basically, with your Series A and Series B of 2018, you're looking at almost 50% of the portfolio. And with this situation, with the rates going up so quickly, it made sense. And also because on construction, we didn't know when it was going to start. It's that question of when it's going to start, when are funds going to be needed. So that makes the portfolio pretty liquid. And the rest of it, of course, another 1/4 of it is local Maine, which is to be expected. This is a great slide. I like these slides. When we go back a year, it's interesting to look back at November 17, 2017. And we were pretty happy at that point because we'd just gotten over 1%. And for the 1/4, it was 1.12%. And you had whopping earnings in the pooled funds of $150,000 because they had been much lower than that when we struggled through the zero rate environment. But you can see in each 1/4 since then that we've been going up to the point where in November you had total earnings for the 1/4 of $359,000. So it could, if that's a 1/4, you can easily look at over $1 million earnings on the portfolio for the year because I don't anticipate that front end going down at all. And if anything, it might be a little kicker going up a little bit. So we're staying right with the benchmarks, which of course are not so much for performance as they are for risk. And your benchmark is based on the markets that you're allowed to invest in and your weighted average maturity, which is based on your cash flow. So they're staying very, very much in line with the ebb and flow of the funds throughout the year. Now, how those are allocated, of course, because of the fact that the short fund rates were going up, you can see on the bottom where in August, for instance, the pool's the most liquid, we're at a 218, and then by the end of November, we're at a 240. So that keeps the portfolio up, and why it was important to keep so much money liquid and so much in the pools besides the need for the liquidity. The commercial paper, though, is very successful in that this is the area, the market sector, where we can utilize it quite a bit to make sure that you get an extra bounce to go out into the 3 and 6 month area. The sweep that was initiated at the bank is also a big part of the improvement in the portfolio, and this was moving out every night. The money moves out to a money market mutual fund, a AAA rated, and you can see that jumped up from a 1.79 to a 2.0. So it's looked good. Let's just hope that these rates continue on the same basis. Here we're looking at the series 2016, 2017, and the 2018 2 series bonds. And they're sitting right now at $143 million. Obviously, the difference between the book and the market is very little when money is very liquid, because it's all on a dollar-for-dollar basis. And because we've been keeping a little more liquid, we've gone from November of 17 at 118 days down to 28 days. So it's a much more liquid portfolio, but we've been talking about extending that a little bit more just to make sure that you can lock into some. But there again, looking at that bottom line of the fiscal quarter earnings is a nice change from November 17 when we were at $228,000, and for this past quarter, $892,000. So I know you want to start your new campus, but boy, it's awfully nice to get that interest on the same side. So,
if you can stop just there for a second, you may not have an answer for this, Mr. Garcia, because this predated your arrival, but obviously when we go out for a bond election and we're doing the estimating on what we can afford and what the bond rate, what the number needs to be, we calculate in some of this interest. But I'm curious as to how good the crystal ball was a couple of years ago when we passed the bond election versus what we're seeing today. Are we on track? Are we way off one way or another? And you don't have to answer that question today unless you have it by chance.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't have that information right off of the top of my head. I need to take a closer look. But here's what I find very comical. A year ago, we were just saying, hey, we're just making 1%. Now I can't sleep at night thinking, hey, am I going to hit the arbitrage rate, the maximum amount of interest that I can't make? So thanks to Linda and her team, they help us monitor that closely, because I don't want to be in a position where I have to return those extra dollars back to the feds or get into any trouble with the feds. So it's a good place to be, but now I have a different type of worry.
So it's finally a good problem. And so historically speaking, we didn't expect to earn anything. When we issued these bonds and so forth, we were just, anything north of on the positive side was a bonus. Okay. But the arbitrage, Linda, would you remind us again about the threshold there and what that actually means?
Certainly. The arbitrage is a threshold that's set when you issue bonds. So when you issue the bonds, and to my recollection, the 2018s they almost had to be right around 4%. So that's your cost of financing. So it costs you 4% to do those bonds, to issue those bonds. Now, the law says that if you get past that 4%, based on a 5-year average, it's not a straight or easy calculation, but if you get past the 4%, then you have to rebate the money to the feds. Okay, and what they're saying there is that they don't want you using tax-exempt money to just invest it in the taxable market and therefore create that arbitrage. But it's going to be a long time before you can get that, because it is based over the life of the bonds. So you've been sitting well below, even if we spike to 6% right now, which not going to happen. But if we spike to 6% right now, averaged over that 5-year period, you still wouldn't be near the 4%, because when, as the president said, when you issued those bonds, we had been sitting 6 years of 0% environment. So yes, our anticipation was absolutely, it's going to go up. It can't go down. And so it was going to go up, but because of the global slowdown, because of the situation in the States, then it was going to go up slowly enough that I think this is very reasonable, because watching rates go up, they click up like this. What we say always in the market is that when rates go up, they go up on the stairs. When they come down on an escalator. And so this is a normal kind of situation, but no, you won't hit arbitrage on any of these bonds.
Okay.
One other slide, I believe, yes, and this just breaks it down. Again, a high percentage of the portfolio sitting, and this was as much because of the rates, but also because of anticipation of start dates and expenditure plans on the bonds and your new project. But you can see that the banks and CP, we've used quite a bit here, and obviously the CP, the commercial paper, and the agencies, we're using them because we can pick up at least 5 to 7 basis points on there, from a 240 to a 250 and almost to a 260, and now closer to a 280. So that's why we're thinking of using the 280s, using the commercial paper on the short end to rebuild that ladder and put it back out there. So that's an idea of what's in the portfolio. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any other questions for Ms. Patterson? Thank you very much.
Do we just think that the interest rates will stay at that level, or will they keep going up?
Well, yeah, what you see is on that curve, the front end is going to stay there.
Yeah.
But my guess is it's going to go up a little bit. And the reason I say that, and it'll go up slowly, but the reason I say that is if we get some certainty on the trade. So if China comes in with some of the farm incidents that they're talking about, and if you have some calming, or at least have a deal on Brexit and maybe a settling in Italy and Venezuela, then people they'll be willing to take more risk, and so you'll see the curve move up ever so slowly. Okay. But the short end is going to stay right where it is for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Is there a motion to accept the college's quarterly
I'll
investment
move to
report?
accept the report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Rivas made the motion.
Second.
Second by Dr. Adami. Any discussion or other questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Now we are going to move into our discussion and possible action related to accepting 100% design development of the Southside Campus Phase 1A. Mr. Alfonso, would you introduce that for us, please?
Yes. It's a good day at Del Mar College. Today we will be, Gensler Architects and Turner Mears Architects will be presenting to you their work, 100% design of the Southside Campus Phase 1A. This project started in May with programming, schematic design, and now the completion of the design development. Without further ado, Gensler and Turner Mears Architects.
Good afternoon. Are we ready to talk about design?
Yes. We have money to spend, as you
All
just
right.
heard.
Thank you for that. On behalf of Gensler and Turner Ramirez, we'd like to thank the board and Dr. Escamilla for inviting us here today to talk about the current design of the Southside campus. 1 year ago this month, we began that process, and working not only with the board and the president's executive team, but also with many of the department heads and faculty to arrive at the point that we are today that we'll be presenting to you. With me today are Philip Ramirez, Luis Ayala, and then Paul Wilhelms. And so they'll each describe some of this. But before we do, how do you move this? Oh, there we go. Oh. So just prior to us beginning the design phase, the board had met in a workshop to identify those attributes and values of the campus that they would like the South Campus to evoke. And we took that, we took those attributes and values and we sort of synthesized them down into a series of characteristics that really focused on the educational mission, student success, and a quality campus experience. And with that, and we use those still as we develop this design further to make sure that our team and our design is remaining consistent with the vision that the board had shared with us. With that, I'm going to ask Luis to talk about the design of the Southside campus.
Thank you, Alan. So I wanna read these points because while I'm presenting the project, I want you to remember these points and go through your heads and see if we are hitting those. I believe we are. We have the vision that you gave us, ask for us to design a building where students want to stay, a place that they feel like home, a place that they feel that they are belonging to a community, a building that promotes and supports and encourages education, a place where they are enticed and not intimidated by the building, and above all, a place that creates that sense of community. So I'm going to take you through a trip of the story of how we came up with the idea. And when we were traveling, of course, I'm an outsider of Corpus, not for long. I'm loving this place so much that I'm thinking being here more. We were noticing on our trips the difference when we are approaching to the coastal bend, the proximity with the coast, and the presence of sand, the water, and the grasses. All of these three elements, natural elements, they are comprised of smaller elements, like in the case of the sand, they have smaller grains of sand, and the water drops, and the grasses, they have smaller reeds. And they are all acting the same way when they are interacting with the wind. The same pattern that you see on the dune sands is the same pattern that you see on the water, on the waves, and on the grass. And that took us to think that is a relationship of how those natural elements react with a major force like the wind in a community. So if these elements, like the little grains of sand and water, are each member of the community, Del Mar College is promoting these individuals, like the major force of the wind, to elevate themselves, to better themselves through education. So that's the story where we started how we're going to approach the design of this building, and then we analyzed that with also a scientific approach when we started building our models and running through the wind that is very constant here. We noticed that by doing some breaks in the volumes, we can create a better flow of the wind, maybe take the wind over the water feature that we're proposing, and have a better experience in that courtyard that is facing the road. Also analyzing with the solar analysis, so you will see in our design that there are areas that are more open than others because we want to be able to control the sun and the daylighting that we have in our buildings. When we're talking about the landscape architecture, we're thinking about the experience of students getting to this place. So first, this is the road on the south side, and the first approach when you're designing a building is to place a building and make the front facade facing the street. And in this case, we created a courtyard because remember, we wanted to make this a place where people are invited, where you're driving through, you see activity happening in this courtyard, and that ignites your curiosity. It's a space that is opening, like open arms, receiving people to come and experience this place. When we are getting to the place, if this is a main entrance, this is a main building, there is a drop-off area here, and notice how we call a dog trot that opens up. This part of the building is open, and all the views are framed. So when there are vistas that we're trying to create when we are experiencing the campus, when we are parking on the north side, coming through here, those vistas are getting to the sculpture lawn that we have here on the south side. These trees are permeating their views. We don't want to be completely open. We want to create an edge to define the edge of the property, but also want people to be able to see through So on that truck, doctor, we're seeing to the culinary. They have a nice yard here. When we're entering from this side, also we have views to the main building. So all of our views are carefully calculated and strategically placed where the buildings are to create these vistas and create beautiful place to be a place that attracts people and retains them. Throughout the process, we experiment with several ways of approaching the skin of the building, and we presented to the team of Del Mar College, and they help us select the one that we thought it was the best. And we came up with the idea of the sunrise, that when you are in Corpus and you are seeing the sun rise over the bay, you see that gradient that is happening on the sky, and we try to apply the same idea of the gradient, making the building with a very novel material that we all know here, the brick, that is affordable, economical, and it lasts a very long time. And we also have good labor here to do it. So we thought with a very simple material, creating with 4 shades, creating that dégradé or gradient going up, the same like the sunrise is doing on the elevation. And these renderings are the culmination of our design process, when all of the models, every single piece of the building is designed, is there. We call it design development, but after this, if we have your approval, we're going to continue documenting this and making the building, creating a set of documents that we can give to a builder and bid exactly. But at this phase, we secure everything that we needed to design is in place. We had a lot of meetings with all the users to see that all the rooms are fitting where they are expecting, and in most cases we are providing more than it was requested in the program.
Can I say something really quick, Luis? This image that you see right here is both real and some of it's not real. So the neighborhood to the back is an actual picture of the exact neighborhood and the exact placement. You want to talk about that, Philip, since you're the expert and I'm not?
Well, I just wanted to chime in here real quick and just reiterate that, because I think your point is well taken, Dr. Escamilla, in that this shot was generated by, we flew a drone up over Yorktown and basically took this shot of the houses and the development that you can see in the background. So that is a real shot that was taken just, literally not even a month ago. And then obviously the beautiful rendering you see here in front of you is done in a way that's photorealistic. And we actually had one of my associates in my office actually walk up and look at one of the images. He says, well, wow, that's a pretty awesome photograph. That was related to the interior. He said, where's that? And so it's a great use of obviously the technology and the talent that the team brings forward, but it is fused with the reality of what this will look like when completed here in the very near future. So I think it's an important thing to see the actual context of where other than just seeing it in a empty field on some computer program. This is a real shot of it superimposed with what this will hopefully look like here in a very short order of time. So.
Thank you, Philip. So what we're seeing here, most of you have seen this project, but for the community that perhaps are seeing this for the first time, we're seeing the main building on the left, the STEM building on the south, on the north of our site, sorry, and the culinary arts on the right. You can see here this is a sculpture garden that our landscape architect SWA is proposing, where we are entering from the north when we park our cars, and we can see this. That within the trees we can have some sculptures. On this side, when we're in the drop-off area through the main building, on the next view, we're going to be able to see that dock truck that we're opening to the water feature. And there are all other vistas that we were creating. The culinary building on purpose is the one that is closer to the street, because we want to, that's a program that will bring a lot of people. And restaurants are here where students are going to be able to practice serving in a restaurant and also cooking food and learning the restaurant business. So that is very prominent on the water, visible to the community. We're showing 2 versions.
Lisa, of course, if we were to hold a meeting, sometimes the board will go to other campuses. Where would we have a meeting? The culinary area?
The
Community room?
culinary on the second floor has a community room for 350 or 400 people, Paul? 400 people, so we can have a meeting there in the.
I think it'd be a pretty
culinary area.
exciting board meeting with 400 people. But that room that community room is designed to be shrunken to appropriate levels,
Yes.
and it's similar to our CED 106.
And, sorry, Luis, there's several, Regent Rivas, that's obviously one of the larger meeting spaces and gathering spaces within the overall campus itself, but there are multiple places to have, meetings and interaction with the community within and spread throughout the campus. So, that's obviously for much larger, and obviously, hopefully if you have a 400-person board meeting, doesn't mean that anybody's done anything wrong and you have that many people yelling at us for some reason. But certainly, no, there's multiple opportunities to engage, I think, the community in a lot of different scalable ways. And so I think you'll see that a little bit later. Paul's going to take us through the floor plans, and I think maybe some of that we'll be able to highlight and identify for you.
We have here two images, and the reason that we're showing the difference, one without the water feature and without the canopy, this is our base of design. So we're going to go to the market for bid with this proposal. If the market is good, you're going to be able to select from a list of items, like in a menu in a restaurant, things that you can add. And we are hopefully with the market conditions that we're going to be able to get a water feature here. And this trellis that is providing some shading under next to the main building. But we have to show both options. Of course, ours is the preferred with the water and the canopy, but we're cognizant of the value of construction. The market for now is stable, but when we go out to bid, we don't know how it's going to be. Now we're looking from the culinary to the main building. So this is a dog trap that I was speaking before, where when you're entering, it's open. Also, that allows, it's a nozzle where the wind will go, the major scale. When we did analysis of the wind analysis, we needed to have an opening for the wind to flow on the building and create a nice environment for students that are here in the courtyard. If we want to retain them, if we want them to feel comfortable, we want to make that space to be comfortable. So, also this option is showing, this rendering is showing with the water and without the water or the canopy. But what we're trying to create here is a connection from the main building to the courtyard. This courtyard, we believe, is going to be very active. When we started the conversation, I remember with Mark, we were speaking about placing the main building in a way that during sunset, the main building is creating a shade already, so we can have concerts here under this canopy and a lot of these events that we can plan by having an open environment. To the left, we're seeing the library that is 4-story high, completely transparent, and the views that we have here when Philip was flying that drone, and we had permission to fly the drone. I want to clarify that. The views that we had to the bay and the bay, the sea were amazing. So we're very comfortable that those spaces are going to be nice. Right? We're looking at the STEM building now, the south entrance of it. And what we wanted to show here, and we took some time working with the artists to represent this, is that it's not a simple brick wall. We're creating that gradient with the bricks. There are 4 tones of bricks that are changing, so we're changing the blend. And this is just labor that we're indicating the labor. Okay, instead of using the dark brick, start mixing with medium color and get to the lighter one. But also, we're introducing something that we call the raking, where they have the mortar. Usually the mortar goes in between bricks and it's plumbed with the brick, but we can also rake the mortar in and create some shadows. So you see that small reveals or change of texture in the wall that creates a very interesting pattern that looks like the sand when the sand in a macro scale. That is not adding cost, but it's adding a lot of interest to the building. So again, it's noble material, but we're using it in a very smart way and creating something else with it. So I don't want to go into depth into every part of the floor plans, but I'm going to touch some because of the time. Talking about the main building first, We are rotating the floor plan here so it fits in the screen better. The entrance to the campus when we're driving, there is a drop-off area here and it's open. So this is covered with a roof, but it's completely open on both sides. So there is wind flowing here. To the right, we have a library that is 4-story high. So the library can be completely used separately from the building after hours. And when we enter into to the left, to the main building, we have the reception, a very open area, inviting to students, and where they have all the administration of the building here on the bottom part. There are some classrooms here that are accessible to students, and over here we have the security department and some the school store.
Luis, may I say something? It's a small thing, but when you use the word administration, people all over the community ask me where my office is going to be on the south side. There's not going to be an office for Mark.
No.
And so when you say administration, it's the student services, front end to administer those kind of services. That's what we're talking about. Yes.
Yes. Thanks for the correction. Under here, connecting this main space with the gathering space, that will be covered with that trellis that we were proposing. Where I have images of this space, interior images, that we're going to be able to talk with more detail later. When we go to the STEM building on the north, we have an entrance to the north from the parking garage, so students when are parking their cars, they can enter directly, and also connect to the courtyard here with this south entrance. Notice that we're making a break here on the courtyard, creating some more areas because we want students to be able to cross through the building when they are going to the culinary building and experience what other students are doing. So these are the architecture studios here. We have maker spaces there. So it's very interesting when you are in college seeing what other students are working in architecture and maker spaces and engineering. They are always creating projects, models that they can share, and they're very, very visually attractive. And that creates, when people are unsure or their path in profession, they can change or they can see other careers, possibilities in the college. When we move to the culinary building, I will let Philip speak a little bit about this one.
So in the culinary building here, you see this is the first floor. As you can kind of see, you know, in this area right here is the drop off. The building, as Luis mentioned, is rotated. Yorktown would be right about here. Coming in, we have a grand lobby entrance that shows a nice sculptural stair that would go up to the second floor meeting spaces, which we spoke about a little earlier. Down this side, and kind of facing Yorktown, we have the demonstration dining room and demonstration kitchen, which is going to be a place where the students can hold demonstration dining events for open to the public. We're working with the culinary department right now to kind of determine the schedule of that and how that would happen, but that kitchen is something that we would be able to certainly show off and showcase to the public itself and invite them in whenever they have scheduled times that they would be open to serve dinner. I'm a little biased, obviously, but I have to say, and I mean no disrespect to my favorite restaurants here in Corpus Christi and in the area, but knowing what this space is going to turn out looking like, I have to tell you that this is probably going to be the nicest, if not will be the nicest restaurant in all of Corpus Christi. So that's saying a lot, and certainly done with a level of skill, but we are very excited about the opportunity to bring the community in to interact with the students, the culinary students of Del Mar College, and showcase their abilities within this fantastic world-class space. As we move through the lower part, you see the test kitchens and the instructional kitchens here, and then the student dining services here. So this is the campus-wide dining. So for students, very similar to what we have here, just right down the way in Harvin Center. It would be a very similar setup to that for students to come in off the courtyard or through the other buildings. Part of the reason we wanted to do that was not only to centralize the kind of kitchen culinary services, but also to attract students that may not be aware of the work that the culinary aspect does, and bring them and draw them into the building itself. We have the second floor plan. Oop, I'm going backwards. The second floor plan, quickly, as you come up this beautiful sculptural stair, we have the administrative offices for the culinary program, not for Dr. Escamilla's corner office is not there. This is for just the culinary program and the hospitality program.
That office is bigger than my current office right now, I assure you.
I can attest to that. Some classroom space, and then the large community gathering space. There's a dedicated kitchen and back of house to be able to not only hold large community functions there and gathering, functions very much like your CED large room, about the same scale, maybe actually a little bit bigger. So certainly have the ability to cater and entertain very large groups of community members, but also use it as a training space. And so that's exciting as well, for teaching the students how to, from a hospitality perspective. So.
Well, I was thinking these were the interior renderings, but just as a programming report, we've mentioned this in the past, that we've actually refined the program, working with the user groups and the administration and all of the provost to actually have more program space than the original FPC program indicated, as well as more soft seating areas and additional offices, and we increased the size of the classrooms. So, you know, we've packed a lot of stuff onto this first campus as a nucleus, you know, and it'll grow outward from there, but it's everything that's needed to be on that south side to have a fully standalone functioning program.
Good. Thank you, Paul. We go to the interior design. The space that we're looking at is a main building, a welcoming space. So this is where students are entering on that side. It's a double height space overlooking to the courtyard and the water feature. We have a stair that is connecting the two floors. We're thinking that stair is going to be out of metal plates. And I gotta say that the team that we have, the team of people working in Gensler and Turner Ramirez are immensely talented. And I'm very proud of the work that they are producing. Tell me if this is not an invited place or a space that you want to be, or students are going to feel like home here. I mean, I think this is a very sophisticated space. It doesn't look like an institution, and it's very well the types of materials that we're using is inviting, and it's a place that people will like to stay. And the details, like when they are approaching here to talk to someone, we're not putting a screen or a countertop where people are facing each other. So the countertops, they have a shape where you're going to be on the side of the other people that is going to guide you to make selections on the screen or work towards your registration process. So all of those details that we're thinking, the way that we're approaching, notice that the reception areas are all round tables where people can walk next to each other and work side by side. It's not a confrontational. All of that we are thinking based on the vision that you gave us. So I think when I look at this space, this is a space I want to be. We tested with younger people in the office, and they are, whoa, yeah, we love it too. So we know it's getting that effect. The metal panels here on the top, they have a perforation that are indicating the pattern of the wind. There are these lines that are rotating. You can't see it here, but I'll gladly show that in more detail. Now when we go to the library on the right side of the main building, we're entering from that space. Around this stair, the helix stair that is going to the second floor, we have the reception area there. It's also made out of metal steel plates, and that steel plate, again as a gradient here, migrates into a pattern that looks like a code where you are deciphering exactly what a library is giving you, the code to decipher and to read and to get more knowledge. We have a coffee place here, and on the north side, we were thinking that we can, on the top of the coffee place, create some books that are made out of wood and back illuminated, where we can have names or notable alumni written there. So this is going to be the wall of fame for the Southside campus. What else to tell here? Again, it's an invited place, a place where people like to be, very sophisticated, yet it's not institutional. On the STEM building, some of the same principles. The stair, in every building we have a ceremonial stair, and they are all have the same language, but they are related to a family, but they are slightly different. So the steel plate metal on the guardrails also that are they have a shape closer to looking nature on a microscope, and all these cells that are close to each other, and also in a gradient going up. We are creating spaces for students to gather under the stairs. And this is one view of the culinary arts. This is the cafeteria for the campus, where they have very good views to the water and to the courtyard. The ceiling is very playful. We need something for acoustical purposes there. Some say that the idea might have come when Paul, Alan, and I went to a restaurant called Snoopy's, and we were eating outside, and there were some seagulls flying on top of us trying to steal our food. But we don't know if that's where the idea came from. But it's very playful, but it's also doing an acoustical purpose for the space.
Kites, not seagulls.
Kites, yes. Paul will speak now about the budget.
It's really heartening to listen to the investments. Everything's going well. So it's also going well on the budget. Just so you know, the process, we have an independent firm, a separate firm that's a consultant to us that independently looks at the drawings without our input and comes back, and then we go over it to make sure there aren't duplications and things. But basically, we're very much on target. As a precaution, we've prepared a list of ad alternates that'll be incorporated, and Luis mentioned those, as well as a few deduct alternates. So we have a band there that gives us some flexibility depending on where the market is, how it comes in terms of how it bids. It's very much determined by how busy contractors are, what price inflation's like, things like that, factors outside our control. So we set up these alternates as optional things that give us some flexibility when it comes down to the pricing. We checked all the addition too, so. In terms of what's happening next, Luis mentioned that, what we're gonna do is finish the design development phase and pretty much immediately start working on the construction documents. So at that point, we get into the really fine-grained detail. How is the stair bolted to the landing? How does the glass work? How do the roofs, how do we make sure they're waterproof? All the minutia that's involved in that. And that's gonna take us about 12 weeks, 14 weeks. And at that point, we'll have the main buildings ready to bid and issue those out for bid. Intention is that we want to get this out on the market as soon as possible. The opening is summer of 2021, and we have a very finite amount of months to get a lot of work in place. Toward that end, over several discussions with the steering committee and the administration, we've broken the construction documents into two parts. And there's a number of reasons to do that. We want to accelerate the speed of the construction. We want to break down the size of it a little bit. Also, bidding one before we bid the other gives us an early read on where the market is. We have an estimate for that. We'll know, was our estimate good? Is the market running hot or cold? And that'll help us gauge too on where the alternates are. The first package will basically be the central plant, the utilities, and then some mass excavation. And it's not really, it's basically just moving the dirt around to get the pads prepared. So once the main buildings contractors come on board, they just start drilling their piers and get going. So all in all, it'll save about 3 to 4 months at the back end of the job, plus give us an early read and open the contract up for more local and smaller contractors to participate. It also gives us the advantage that we get our fire line in, which is a requirement that the city gave us, and produces a safer site overall for the college. The second package will contain everything else, the buildings, all the landscaping, all the equipment that goes in them, and that contractor will be responsible for that entirety. We thought this was a good place to split those two, that they wouldn't be treading on each other's toes, and produce a good, consistent product for the college.
So today you're only asking for approval on number one?
We're
And we'll come back
asking
later
for you to, essentially, we've shown you design development, which is a refined, basically we didn't make a lot of changes. And to a lot of eyes, it probably, you say, well, this looks a lot what you talked to us about in October. And there are a lot of finer grain changes, refinements, confirmations of things. So basically you're approving that we accept the design development documents, and then you can proceed into construction documents and the bidding process.
For both.
For both, but you're gonna do one first and then the other one later. Okay.
So, and I defer to August on what the procedure is once you've received those bids. I assume you guys approve those once we have them.
We will bring those, those results to the board independently. Item number 1 first, and then item number 2 second.
So, if there are any comments or questions or things you would like to get into more detail?
So for clarification, we are going to accept 100% design development for the Southside campus and authorize Dr. Escamilla and administration to proceed with construction documents as you have described.
And bidding of the work.
And move to bid.
That language is not in the action item, but we can include that, and I'll development of the project, that's okay. And I'll go ahead and move for that item, Madam Chair.
I'll second that.
So Mr. Rivas made the motion to accept 100% design and to authorize administration to proceed with construction documents development of the project. And Dr. Adami made a second to that motion.
Does it have to have the Phase 1A project? I don't know.
As stated in the agenda.
Stated in the
How's that?
agenda.
There we go. Other comments, questions from board members? Just want to thank you all for your work. Thank us all for our work, because we've had several.
Yeah.
We've had
It's a
several
group effort.
meetings on this over the past several years. I also want to thank Dr. Lewis and Dr. Escamilla for leading the steering committee internally. I know that you have spent a lot of time with users, with faculty, with facilities folks, making sure that we can put as much into these buildings as we can. And I applaud you all for squeezing every dime that we can out of this project. We really appreciate that. We appreciate the attention to detail.
Ditto.
If I don't see any questions from the board, I am going to ask for public comment on this item. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this agenda item? I do have one final question or comment. Are we updating, is it the Del Mar Tomorrow website, or are we putting this all on our main Del Mar EDU? Because I know we have full floor plans. We just showed you the ground floor, but we have full floor plans for second, third, and fourth floors, and
These will be on our new website.
on the new website. Okay, thank you. All right then, all those in favor of accepting the design development as stated in the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Rivas made the motion and Dr. Adami seconded. Okay. Mr. Alfonso does not get a break. Now he's going to lead us in discussion and possible action related to a contractor for turnkey installation of AV infrastructure.
David? Thank you. The college issued RFP number 2018-08 for the 2014 Bond Audiovisual Systems contractor for the following 2014 bond construction projects: the Emerging Technology Expansion and for the Workforce Development Center. These two 2014 bond buildings and expansion are the first 2 buildings that are going to go live for the 14 bond project. The evaluation committee members include the following: Laura Montemayor, Tom Graham, Larry Bazan, Robert Duffy, and myself. The audiovisual infrastructure standards and RFP specifications was designed and developed by Datacom Design Group. They are the 2014 Bond Technology Consulting Firm. This is the first time that the college hired a consulting firm for technology as it relates to construction. The process was facilitated by David Davila and John Salinas of the Purchasing Department. The following 4 firms submitted qualification statements and competitive seal proposals for consideration: Data Projection Incorporated, Ford AV, Troxel Solutions, and Whitlock AV, 4 statewide or national level firms. We're happy that they all bid in our projects. The evaluation committee's recommendation for the contractor for the 2014 bond audiovisual systems is Ford AV. The proposed contract amount is $2,075,634.53.
Are there any questions for Mr. Alfonso?
Are these all local firms or mostly out-of-town firms?
They are national firms, high-level national firms, but they do employ local subs, and some of them have local salespeople.
That includes the one that you all selected?
The one we selected, their closest office is in San Antonio, but they do deploy local subs.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to accept the recommendation and authorize administration to proceed with awarding a contract? Ms. Estrada made that motion, second by Mr. Salinas. Seeing no further discussion, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we are going to move on to discussion and possible action regarding the increase of colleges' academic tuition rates by a total of $3 per semester hour. Dr. Escamilla, do you want to introduce this, please?
Absolutely. This is the time of the year that we get to discuss this most serious topic, which is really the umbrella of student charges, and particularly the tuition rate recommendations by administration. As promised by the administration and as requested by the Board of Regents, previous conversations have evolved and taken place prior, and we're looking to bolster, otherwise reinforce those conversations on a more regular basis throughout the course of the academic year. This goes back to December, where another presentation was made in preparation to have as robust a discussion as possible with the board at the December meeting. We've taken, again, we've taken this with the utmost seriousness and regard for the end user of this, or the end group, the group that would be impacted by this, pardon me, that that are our students. Our students are the ones that we take most seriously. So when we do this with all seriousness and best regard for the affordability and accessibility components of our mission. So Mr. Garcia, he has a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Okay. As we continue on this pathway to build the 2020 budget, today I have for you a second presentation on tuition and fees. We will go over a number of key factors considered when determining changes to the tuition and fee rates. And we will review a number of student affordability indicators relative to our peers. So let's get started. Our tuition and fee modeling is driven by many factors, including legislative reform, economic conditions, strategic initiatives, student affordability, and the condition of the college's financial health. As I mentioned earlier before, our liquidity is strong. For example, this year, The state will determine the level of funding for public institutions of higher ed in the state of Texas for fiscal years 2020 and 2021. The Elmar share of the funding is contingent on our contact hour production relative to other institutions of higher ed in the state of Texas. Let me also mention that with the start of the 86th legislative session in recent weeks, there are discussions around property tax and school finance reform that includes changes to the funding modeling. We do not have a firm assessment of the financial impact to the college finances because the details of the reform has not materialized as of yet. More to come on that. So here's a listing of the different type of factors. So I'll go over it in the up and coming slides. I'll touch on some of these factors. So let's get started. Okay, the common thread in our regional peer group is student affordability, student enrolled, and student profile. The listing of schools are designated as a Hispanic serving institution by the U.S. Department of Education. I recognize that Tamu Systems' mission is different than ours. I intentionally included them to gauge our performance since we operate in the same space. Let's go over student affordability. I think it's important to all of us. The information for the student financial system was obtained from the National Center of Educational Statistics as reported in the most recent IPEDS report. IPEDS stands for Integrated Post-Secondary Educational Data System. A lot of factual information, a lot of data. I want to point out a few things from this slide. Let me see. Let's get started with the tuition discount. Unfortunately, I was not able to get this information from some of our other sister institutions, but I can tell you from our perspective, our discount rate is 55%, which means more than half of the tuition and fees is paid with some form of student financial aid. Okay.
This doesn't include, I'm sorry, this doesn't include work study, does it? Just direct assistance and tuition?
This is, no, it does not include work study. This is the actual
Assistance and
cash
tuition.
outlay, financial assistance component. That would be Pell, SEOG, foundation dollars as well, a few other items. Okay. And work study is a work program that assists students. It's like a pay-as-you-go type of concept. But no, those numbers are not factored into these figures. The average student Pell Award is $4,337, which is at the midpoint of this group. Note that the maximum Pell Award is $6,045 for the 2018 and 2019 award year. So we're about the 75th percentile of that total award annually. The Del Mar student has the least amount of college debt. The average student loan amount is $2,979. Next is our statewide peer group. Let's go over their information. Okay. Once again, the common thread in our statewide peer group is student affordability, student enrollment, and student financial aid, yes. With the exception of the North Central College and Tyler Junior College, the listed schools are designated as a Hispanic service institution by the U.S. Department of Education. Del Mar tuition discount is the second highest in this group, once again with 55 cents of the tuition and fees paid with some form of financial assistance. The average student Pell Award is $4,337, which is at the highest end of this group. Note that the maximum federal Pell Award is, again, $6,045 for the 2018-2019 award year. The Del Mar has the second least amount of college debt in this group. The average student loan amount is $2,979. In fiscal year 2018, a total of $5.9 million was refunded to qualified financial aid students. This is the amount of financial aid award that is in excess of the cost of attendance. More to come on this cost of the cost of attendance in the up and coming slides. So I'll touch on that a little bit more.
Before we move on.
Yes.
The zero under Laredo Community College for average student loan?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm getting this information from iPads, so that's interesting. I'm not too sure how to respond to that question, but that's coming out from a third-party source, a reputable third-party source.
However, that data depends on what is reported, and
Yes.
sometimes there's gaps in reporting.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. I'm going to be curious to find out. And
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to point out for Mr. Salinas and for others who may not know, the state groups community colleges together by small, medium, large, and extra large, just based on student enrollment. So that's why these folks are our statewide comparison group. It's because of student population, not anything else. So that's why they're kind of all, you might think, what do we have in common with Amarillo or Tyler Junior College?
But these are in the large category.
But these
right?
are in the large category. We're considered
Extra
a large.
large would be like Alamo and.
Correct.
Can I ask further that question about the zero, and, I mean, how reliable is this data then? That shakes my confidence.
it's on inputs. I'm going to say that is an anomaly.
Dr. Escamilla, if I may, I believe, now I'll check with my colleagues, that Laredo Community College does not offer loans.
I've heard that said, but I didn't want to say that because
I
I
don't
wasn't
want to say
sure.
that 100%, but I, just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that's one of the few community colleges that does not offer a loan program.
I've heard that before, but I didn't know that to be the case. Again, an anomaly of one way or the other. We'll get that confirmed. But for the numbers to go to iPads, when you're talking about reporting to the federal government, these numbers are, but for the most part, as accurate as they get out there. And these are the ones we use to base off of everything. I mean, iPads at the federal level is basically the foundation of all our data.
Yeah. So with that said, I'm just going to say, here's my disclaimer, just working with the best available data. Okay.
I have a question.
Sir.
How is the Pell Grant distributed to the student?
Rita? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Regent, how it works out is after all tuitions are paid and books are deducted for how much they would receive from Pell, then they would receive a refund check, and there's a disbursement date, and the check goes directly to the student. Most of the time, they have a card, and it goes into their card, and they're able to use it.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Moving right along. All right, let's talk about the tuition increase over the years. Since 2011, the rate changes can be best described as volatile. Credit hour increases have ranged from $0 to $9. The average over the year is $3.50. The non-credit hour fee increases have ranged from $0 to $10 with an average increase of $3. There's an explanation for some of the big significant increases in years 2011 to 2014. State funding is a major factor that contributes to our recommendation for any potential changes to the rate. So during the 4-year ending 2014, the college experienced a significant decline in funding, totaling about $2.1 million from fiscal year 2011 to 2014. In response to this shock to our operations, the college restructured its finance, which included significant changes to our fee structure. Okay. All right. Semester hour rates. The rate structure in this schedule, as you can see amongst our peers, can be described as from a range of simplicity to complexity. The volume of fees can be 1 to 2, and it can range to as many as 5 or 6 or 7. For example, North Central College has the most simplistic fee structure. It consists of a tuition and a general use fee. On the other hand, the Tamush system has a more complex fee structure with a wide range of fees. For example, the in-district and designated rates on the schedule makes up the tuition fee. Now, a third tuition fee is assessed by the College of Nursing and Science and the College of Business at a rate of $179 and $77 respectively. If anything, what I want you to take away from this schedule is that affordability cannot be measured by the tuition fee rate alone. The cost of attendance is a better measure which takes into consideration the number of registered credit hours, okay? This is just another, this next slide is just a continuum of a listing of the different type of fees that our peer group has. Okay, now let's talk about cost of attendance. Now, on the average, the Del Mar student registers for 8 credit hours, so this is based on that concept. What it would cost our student profile to attend a different institution, one of our peer institutions. The Del Mar cost of attendance is at the upper mid-range of our peers at $885 per semester. Now, I'm also going to mention that it is important to note that Del Mar has the largest tuition discount, very important fact. And students receive the largest amount of Pell Award on the average. Our students, and lastly, our students carry the least amount of debt. Important facts. Okay, so let's talk about the possible changes to our tuition rate. We have 4 tuition increase scenarios for fiscal year 2020. As previously mentioned, the Consumer Price Index is one of many key factors when considering changes in our rates. The Office of the Comptroller has reported that an inflation rate forecast of 242.5% is expected in fiscal year 2020. A $2 increase will allow the institution the same level of purchasing power as in fiscal year 2019. So just to keep up with the regular increases in the cost of goods is going to be at a $2 rate. However, let's talk about strategic initiatives. Strategic initiative is another factor for consideration. After vetting the IPEDS reports with respect to student affordability, the college believes that there are existing students who may not understand the benefits of the Student Financial Aid Program, which includes the Pell and other student financial aid programs. The college is considering a student outreach initiative to educate our students on student financial aid.
How has that been done before? I know that we do some outreach and financial aid, but aggressively or just moderately?
So that's an area that we're focused on. I know Regent Salinas brought that up, and that's been brought up many times. In fact, we're repositioning with this budget year to change now with new leadership there in the financial aid office to include 2 outreach specialists. We're looking at 1, most likely 2, hopefully. Rito, do you have any other comments?
No, Dr. Escamilla, that's exactly right. One of the things we want to do from part of our strategic plan is to increase the amount of Pell Grant recipients. And right now, we have 10 full-time individuals in our financial aid office, and a lot of that is processing. And so a lot of the outreach, whether it's going to the ISDs or community events, we have our outreach folks in another office that does some of that for them. But we think it's best to have our financial aid outreach folks that come out of the financial aid office that are subject matter experts in financial aid to be able to do that. And so that's what Dr. Escamilla and I have been talking about lately to increase the Pell recipients.
And thank you for the information, Dr. Silva. Laredo Community College did stop offering loans in the fall of 2012. Very interesting move. I think they're one of a couple in the state altogether. So that number's accurate.
Excuse me,
it's an
but
anomaly nevertheless.
You you mentioned SEOG, right? Now, do the students know that SEOG is there available for?
The students fill out a resource form, and they are asked, they want to apply for all different kinds of grants that are available, and they check all that, and it goes out on a first come, first served basis.
Right. Is that the only other one?
Sometimes TPEG is available as
TPEG?
well.
Okay. And again, because I know that in the past, I've dealt a lot with financial aid with kids, and a lot of them really don't know, and especially the parents don't know.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is that, do they come here and try and get help, or, You know, where can they get the help?
Well, Regents, they can get help here. We actually have workshops over in our enrollment center that students can come in and somebody sit with them on a computer to help them, assist them with that. So that they can get help there as well. Our financial aid office does provide workshops as well before every semester. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things that we hear is that some students are, because of two reasons. Students don't like to do it because it's very intimidating to fill out the FAFSA, because it asks for all kinds of information. And sometimes students say, I don't want to give my private information, like my tax returns, or parents don't want to share that information for the students to do that. So those are some of the reasons that sometimes students don't want to do that.
Yeah, because I know that a lot of them, you know, they don't know the difference between financial aid and a loan.
Sure.
You know, and that's the thing about it, is that they need to understand that it's a grant. They don't have to pay it back.
Sure.
You know, but my question is that I know that a lot of kids don't really know that the money's there available for them. And I just want to make sure, and I know we've talked about it, Dr. Escamilla and myself, to where we can let everybody know, you know, what's there available for them, because that's one of the reasons that holds a lot of the kids back.
Sure.
And so anyway, there's no reason why any kid cannot come to school.
Sure.
And especially here to Del Mar, because you know what? It's a lot easier for them to come here and get their core classes.
Sure.
And it's not going to cost them as much.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm very strong as far as, or I'm very much into making sure, because I know that the majority of kids from our area nowadays qualify for financial aid.
Sure. We couldn't agree with you more, Regent Salinas. We
Yeah.
want the same thing. A little notation as well. Our financial aid office does a great job of encouraging the Pell Grant and discouraging the, that's a word, the loans.
The loans.
Not encouraging.
Yeah.
Thank you, English major.
That's our
That's good.
resident
Well, that's
expert.
just all. I want us to go ahead and really, you know, be strong on it because
That's
of the
right.
fact that we're going through different years now compared to the way it used to be.
Sure.
Now we've got a lot of kids that qualify for financial aid.
And that's why I was glad that Mr. Garcia pointed out the fact that our students take out less loans than most of our counterparts, because they are told, if you can do it with just a Pell Grant, don't take out a loan if you don't have to.
Dr. Silva, I also wanted to add, and Mr. Salinas,
Thank you, sir.
having previously worked at a high school, I know that we would have sessions for parents on financial aid, and a lot of the times the parents would not come to the sessions, and they were very informative, but sometimes we didn't have very many parents there. So I think that's another reason that our kids do not know, and the parents do not
you.
know, that a lot of this financial aid is available.
Because many times if they're under 24, they're required to have their parents' tax return to share that information as well, and sometimes students do not, or parents, like you said, Regent Estrada, don't want to share that information.
So I think the point of all this is that we're looking at that as an initiative, that a potential tuition increase. I'm gonna let Mr. Garcia get back to his tuition discussion. Could help us fund is when we talk about strategic initiatives.
Yes. Yeah. Regent Salinas, I also want to add that, you know, the numbers indicate that our Office of Financial Aid is doing a very good job, right? Low debt, highest Pell Award. The numbers are there. We're just seeing an opportunity to expand and really do a more robust job out there. That's what we're really trying to do.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. Madam Chair, to your point, all I'm trying to do is to link our strategic initiatives to any potential financial resources that come our way. And this is a good opportunity. It's a good cause. And so that's why I'm coming here before the Board of Regents, asking that we do a $3 tuition increase, which is $2 above the $1 rate that's described in our board policy. Okay.
So I just have one question.
Yes.
You're quoting the CPI, but I know from other experience that the HEPI, the Higher Education Price Index, is usually higher than this.
Yes.
Because we have expenses that are not represented in the CPI. So even at the, I don't know what it is now, but if we did a $3 increase, that we might be matching what the HEPI is as opposed to the CPI.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. I don't have the, I do have the information, but my power died on my laptop, so, but yes, I do have the effort. HEPI is another financial indicator that describes the inflationary, but it's very focused on higher ed. And I just, to my fault, I figured CPI is the most common financial indicator that everybody recognizes. Now I know better. Thank you.
I just wanted to show that if we're just matching the CPI, that's not necessarily even accounting for what all of our inflationary pressure is.
Yes. Very, very good point. Very good point. Okay. One more slide. Last item is this is our 2020 DMC budget plan calendar. The calendar attempts to follow the prior year's timeline. It is designed to allow for changes as we get closer to the final stages of the budget plan. Next on the calendar is the budget committee kickoff that is scheduled for Thursday the 7th. We will talk about the changes to the process that will bridge the financial resources with the strategic operating activities. This starts with the redesign of the budget worksheet. I have also had plans to communicate today's outcomes with respect to our recommendation for a tuition increase. So, Mr. President, Madam Chair, members of the board, this concludes my presentation. Do you have any other questions for me?
I did want to point out to the board that we will have board review and workshops and begin discussions at April, May, July board meetings with adoption in August. So there'll be several opportunities as Mr. Garcia and Dr. Escamilla roll out the budget plan. There's 3 or 4 budget workshops. This is the first time we really kind of talk about it because of the tuition increase and the need to publish that that tuition for next year prior to spring break. So that's why we do this first, and then we enter into the rest of the budget discussion.
Yeah, we start registering students as soon as April for the fall semester.
You mentioned, Raul, you mentioned that the last significant big increase we had was in 2011, I think, or when the $5 one, $5 increase.
So let's go back to that presentation.
2012. 2015? No, I'm sorry.
So,
Let's see.
here we go.
2011.
So the last biggest
2012
increase,
was
it was a
$8.
series of increases. So in
And that-
2011, it was $9 on a per semester hour rate. And then on top of that, it was $8 per person.
And that was attributed to the cuts that we were getting from the state.
Yes.
That is correct. Yes.
And, I mean, now, the last biennium, we didn't get much of a cut. In fact, we got an increase, didn't we? Slight increase, and this year we're projecting.
We got some of the dollars back that they cut for the previous
cut.
several years. We still remain behind overall.
I know that.
And so, but that's answering your question. Yes, and this legislative session, we think we're going to come out flat. Where the increases will be in the performance-based funding. In other words, the buckets will be out there for us to compete for the dollars. So the increases may or may not come our way. It depends where we land in the way of enrollment as compared to the other 49 districts.
And the success points?
Those are the success points, yes. So with our outcomes, how do we match up with our other districts with our success points? Yes, there'll be, if there are any dollars, the numbers I'm hearing right now are around, the estimates are total dollars somewhere less than $50 million for all 50 community colleges. Those are the numbers right now. That's the floor. Do we think we're going to get much better than that? Maybe a little bit. With the focus at the legislative session, and this is the big policy issue, with the focus on at the legislature on K through 12 public ed finance, that's where the monies are going to go. Plus tax reform, I'm waiting to go home tonight, and my homework will be listen to the state of the state by the governor. For the governor, he was doing that as we convened here today. So we're going to watch all those sorts of things. I think it's going to be basically a cost of living increase for all community colleges. K through 12 is going to get the lion's share.
Mr. Bennett, you have a question?
I do. Even with the $3 increase, we still remain an incredible bargain. So there's no question about that. I'm looking at the average or all the tuition for all 50 colleges, and we're on the high side, but not much. And my confusion is our tax rate brings in 50% of our revenue, and the state average is 38%, which means our tuition's about the same as everybody else. But on a $100 million budget, which is just basically what we have, we bring in $50 million from ad valorem taxes, and the average for the state is $38 million, $12 million difference. My question or my confusion is why? There's an opportunity to reduce expenses, it looks like to me, but you're the CFO.
You know, but Regent Bennett, you have some very good points. That's the downside. What I do see is that we have this expansion that's going on in the Southside campus. I really don't know what that's going to look like. And so if we start thinking about resizing this institution, that may put us in a financial difficult position. Keep in mind that earlier I said I had an 8-month liquidity position, right? So if we start curtailing costs and start resizing the revenue stream, that can create
I'm not talking about curtailing anything. I'm talking about examining why the average is so much lower than what we are. There may be some opportunity there.
I look forward to that discussion further. I will say, just in a nutshell, what we're talking about at the legislature, one of the items that we're talking about are service areas versus tax bases. When you go to Tarrant County and their service area is their tax base, their rates are much lower. Their efficiencies and the dollars, sorry.
That's the same thing in the valley.
Yeah, and those are, so there's that disparity there. There are tax heavy. There's a study out there, and I'll get it from my colleague up in Dallas. He's a chancellor up there. There are studies of the various colleges that are spread out that are tax heavy and others that are not, and the reasons why. And you'll see the most of our peers are in there where we are, where our service areas and our tax bases being two different things. The other thing I'd like to throw out there is since 2010, in 2010, our valuation was $17,264,000,000 and change. Today, it's $25 billion. 8 years later, $25,668,000,000 and change. It's a big increase, and so there's a growth in the area. Again, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about costs and why are we at 54% of the budget coming from the tax base. Again, we have other scenarios like that, and I'll get that study to show you, because it's where something has to give. That's what we were talking about earlier with regard to service areas and tax bases, and how we have to do something to move in the direction of more efficient operations.
Any other questions related to the recommendation by the administration for the $3 increase total in our tuition? Is there anyone willing to make that motion for a $3 per semester credit hour tuition increase?
I so move, ma'am.
Mr. Bennett makes the motion, and Ms. Estrada seconds that motion to increase our tuition by $3 per semester credit hours. Any other questions or comments from the board? Do we have public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you, Regents.
Now we're going to move on to the quarterly financial report. Mr. Garcia, you get to stay there.
I don't have one. Do you need a charger for your laptop?
Yeah.
Okay.
More numbers. Here we go. Okay. So from a governance perspective, it's always good to talk about the status of our finances, and we do this on a quarterly basis. What you have in front of you today, what I would be discussing today is the November financial statements. All right, it's the 3 months ended November 2018. Okay, So let's get started with the income expense and statement. For the 3 months ending November, total revenues increased by $1.8 million over last year's $27.9 million. The increase is mainly due to changes in the appraised values of the properties and the adopted M&O rate change from 2018 to 2019. In addition, total revenues is trending as expected at 30% of the planned budget, which is consistent with prior year's 29%. Expenses, total expenses of $20.8 million is also trending consistently with prior years to $21.2 million. In addition, total expenses is trending as expected relative to the budget. Any questions on the income statement? Okay. Let's move along to the balance sheet. Okay. As of November 2018, as I mentioned earlier, the college liquidity position is stronger relative to 12 months ago. The combined cash and investment total in our operating fund is $49.4 million as of the November 30th, 2018 financial presentation. Our monthly burn rate of $7 million. With that level of spend, the college can continue to operate for the 7 months with no additional inflow of cash in cash. Back in November 2017, the cash and investment position allowed us for 6 months of operation with no additional inflow of cash. So year over year, it's gone up by 1 month. So our financial condition continues to get stronger. Deferred outflow increase by $1.2 million over last year's $3.8 million. This is mainly attributed to payments made to the employment retirement system and for $2 million, offset by changes in the investments held by the teachers' retirement for $1.2 million. Moving right along, let's talk about liabilities. Accounts payable decreased by $1.1 million from last year's $2.9 million due to the timing of the payment for our payroll taxes. The increase in the net pension liability for $72.1 million and deferred inflow pension plan for $17.4 million over prior years attributed to the new reporting requirements for post-employee retirements. Mr. President, Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes my report. In short, we have a strong financial position.
Little question.
Yes, sir.
The net pension liability is listed as a current liability? 86 million?
The 86.1 million, yes, sir.
And that's statement 72?
Well, there's two components to that, right? GASB statement 72. There's two components to that. The pension is for 12.2 million, and then the OPEB is 73.9. The 73.9 is the biggest cost for this change year over year.
And I remember they reported on that, the CPAs report on that.
Yes, sir.
But we could really have to pay that bill, couldn't we?
It all depends, right? There's three components, funding components to the pension and the OPEB, right? One is funded by the employees, one is funded by the employer, and the other piece is funded by state. Specifically, the pension, I can tell you that is by legislative discussion. Now, the other piece that is factored into the funding levels is the value of the performance of the investment. I think earlier Linda talked about how over the last 12 months investments have been performing fairly well in the marketplace. I suspect that the pension may have a broader portfolio and is able to leverage their financial strengths to get a bit bigger return. So that's another layer of funding to the pension and the OPEB. So right now, if there's a big market downturn of investments and there's huge losses in the pension portfolio, that's a possibility.
Well, I pulled up their financial statements, and their actuarial present value of liabilities over benefits or over assets is $35 billion.
Yep.
It's a big negative number.
Yes. But the auditors report have not said that there's a going concern. I mean, if the auditors are saying there's a going concern, then we have to worry about it.
Oh, I agree. Then we've got a big issue.
That's
But-
right.
But I point to Enron's financial statements, just part of the background.
So statewide, there's discussion. I think there was this week. Tacubo is meeting soon. The statewide business officers organization is meeting, and again, this is another item that is being considered and even reconsidered on how to book these liabilities and how to clear up this seemingly negative number. One other tidbit on that: the vast majority of look, and I don't mean to sound like misery loves company, but that's what it's going to sound like. The majority of colleges across the state are in the negative positions as well.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is this needs to be rectified in the way of policy, and the state association as well as TAC, Association of Community Colleges, are working to see how we fix this once and for all. Of course, this is a national issue.
It is a national. I think the state of Illinois is probably in worse shape, if not they're at the bottom 10% or whatever.
And it's cold over there.
Yes. So to your point, Mr. Bennett, we should monitor. We should definitely keep our eyes out for it. It is definitely a financial risk to the institution, but the auditors have not expressed that it's a going concern at this stage of the game.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be in touch with that, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Garcia? Is there a motion to accept the financial statement? Dr. Sherwood makes the motion, Mr. Salinas seconds. Any public discussion, or excuse me, public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we're going to bring up Ms. McDonald to talk about a revision in Board Policy B 5.7.
Yes. As a result of the Human Resources Internal Audit, which actually our Weaver representative spoke to earlier in their presentation, on the HR audit, we just have a few policy revisions that we need to move forward to the board to actually close out our complete audit. And this is one of those policies, and it's B 5.7, restrictions/relatives. We're recommending the revision for your approval. We're also recommending a title change to the policy. We want to provide a more comprehensive policy, formalize college compliance with state nepotism statutes and guidelines, and follow the best practices as outlined in the Texas Human Resources Management Statutes Inventory of Policies, which is the benchmark that we use for policies. Our current policy, I think you can see, was just a couple of sentences, and it really spoke more about employees. The state statutes and guidelines actually speak of board trustees and those relationships with different types of relationships or relatives within a certain degree of relations to a board member. So we've added all of that language in the policy, and we've also provided all the definitions in the policy. Do you have any questions?
So this is consistent with and recommended by state law, or consistent with state law and recommended by the internal auditors.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, quick question, B57, go up just a little bit to about the fourth new line. So it says, I mean, the main thing is the public officials may not do all of these things or be compensated for public funds? Or from public funds?
From.
It should be from.
Compensated from.
Okay. I'll get that corrected.
So that line should read compensated from public funds.
Instead
or
of for.
fees.
Thank you.
That's a legal review. Good for you.
You know I read it.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to adopt with that one revision? Motion by Mr. Bennett, second by Dr. Adami. Any other discussion? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion carries. We will now go into general public comment, and I think we have some folks signed up for that. Thank you. We're going to ask for Mr. Jack Gordy first, please.
Yes, I'm Jack Gordy, and I live at 4118 Bray Drive here in Corpus Christi, Texas. All of you got a letter that I mailed you regarding the lawsuit that Del Mar filed against the Attorney General for no reason. The Attorney General, when they got the letter asking that from Del Mar or from the lawyer in Austin, not from Del Mar, from the lawyer in Austin, asking that Del Mar be able to withhold that information, the Attorney General was clear, plain. He said, there is no confidential information, there is no public information, and no private information. Release it. Del Mar didn't want to. They filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General. Well, they lost that lawsuit. They still weren't satisfied. They filed an appeal. They lost the appeal. They still weren't satisfied, so they filed another appeal. They lost that one, and I was told that they filed another appeal. That is totally ridiculous, and this board allows it. There's no reason they won't release the information. And like I told the Attorney General in the letter I wrote him, Del Mar's got a bad habit of keeping secrets from the taxpayers and keeping secrets from the Board of Regents. Because from what I was told, you wasn't even aware that the lawsuit was filed. Now, the paper you got, there's a website down there in bold letters. You can go on that website and you can see everything that happened, all the appeals and the lawsuit. It's all available, and there's a case number. Like I said, in 2 months now, November, December, they paid that lawyer in Austin $10,128 just to talk to the Attorney General. And I'll say it again, that money is coming out of the taxpayer's pocket, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of the taxpayer's money because we got a lawyer there. And anybody up here asked to see his papers to prove he's a lawyer? He's not acting like one. If he was, he would be able to write a letter to the Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Gordy. Next, we'll hear from Tina Butler. Ms. Butler here? If she comes back in, please let me know. Janelle Bennett.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Janelle Bennett, and I'm here to speak about Tina Butler's attributes and her work ethics. I've known Tina Butler in a variety of capacities for over 18 years. She's efficient, detail-oriented, and extremely competent. Unfortunately, her name came up at length this past Saturday at the Taxpayers Association, so that's why I'm here. She's often successfully finished a task well before deadline. She's extremely organized, rarely misses a deadline. Tina has an excellent rapport with the students in the community public organization. Her dedication, great communication skills allow her to connect with all kinds of people and to inspire them to put forth their best effort. I'm saddened to appear before the Board of Regents under these circumstances, but I feel it's the right thing to do. As Martin Luther King stated, injustice anywhere is a threat of justice everywhere. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. As requested in 2013, when nearly identical circumstances were occurring with me for simply requiring the nursing students to follow the clinical requirements and bringing concerns to the current Del Mar chairperson and program director. The administration changed clinical grades of 2 of my students from unsafe to safe. And yes, this does occur in the clinical setting, and not only in B County, but here in Corpus Christi, Texas. Without even evaluating, my point is this. Now, after 27 years of dedicated services, Tina is faced with the same sort of threats combined with discrimination. And yes, I do consider bullying of minorities discrimination. When is this administration will stop the bullying, harassment, discrimination against employees at Del Mar College? Unfortunately, I'm familiar with all 3. When will the administration stop writing out large settlement checks? When will this administration focus on moving this college forward by increasing student enrollment and decreasing administrative bloat versus trumping up charges against faculty and employees who have positive solutions? I'm a recipient of that. I'm asking that the Board of Regents to no longer close their eyes to the real problems mentioned. The lawsuits and the settlements are symptoms to a much larger problem. The nursing program was unconditional. The GED program was completely lost. Hundreds of thousands in grant money has been repaid. Del Mar has been the pride of the community for decades. Please do not allow discrimination and bullying to erode the fine reputation of this college. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Simone Sanders? Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Simone Sanders. I'm a Corpus Christi resident, taxpayer, former student, and alumna. But last but not least, I'm Tina Butler's daughter. So let me start by saying that I'm 37-year-old, and Del Mar has been a part of my life for 37 years. If my mother was in class right here out of high school getting her multiple associate's degrees, bachelor certificates, I was here with her. I'm on a first name basis with numerous Del Mar employees because of how long she has been here. So imagine my surprise when I get to witness my mother stressed, having health issues because of stress, having someone hinder her being able to do her job, and her contemplating forced retirement. That doesn't sound like Tina Butler. I don't have to go through her list of accolades or awards that she's won. You can Google Tina Butler, and you can see everything that she's done. And the other thing that you'll see is Del Mar will also come up if you do the same thing. She wears Del Mar on her sleeve like it's a badge of honor. The last thing I expected was to hear and see with my own two eyes that my mother, an employee here, is asking for help and isn't receiving any at all. And I mean falling on completely deaf ears. So I'm shocked and really still in disbelief that this is the culture that Del Mar now encourages. You don't expect to come back from community college day after you've helped plan it, you're advisor for SGA, you've had it on the calendar, and then you hear someone berate you because you didn't ask permission to go first. And that's not the first time. So Tina's name and her picture is on your walls here. So in all honesty, everyone that has played a part in this should take a long, hard look in the mirror, and I mean up the full chain of command. When you have someone tell you to take a personal file, put all of your grievances in there and put it away and never bring it up again because they don't want to hear it and they don't believe anyone will help you, what do? If an administrator says that to you, what do? Who can you turn to? Del Mar needs to take a good look and evaluate how it supports its staff members via the HR office and its policies, and a good look at how it lets administrators run departments at their own personal whim. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Ms. Butler left again, did she? Thank you. Reverend Claude Axel.
Good afternoon to the Board of Regents. It's been a long meeting, but I should try to make this as short and sweet as possible. I'm here on behalf of Tina Butler. I've known Tina for a number of years. It seems to me that Tina has, to me, she's defined as a public servant, which you all are. I should not have to tell you the definition of a public servant because to me, that wouldn't be fair to your intellect. But she truly is a public servant, one who loves her job. And then when you get to the point where you can't take lunch as a director, when you want to take lunch, when at times, I think the lunch was designated as 12 to 1, but that's when most of the students that she needs to deal with are here, and she would prefer to take the lunch at a different hour. I would just like to know, are all of the directors treated in the same manner as forced lunch? Is there a designated time for your directors to take their lunch? The second thing I would like to speak to you about is I'm not sure if everybody who is in HR knows the policies. And when one of your employees come and asks you for information and you can't cite the policy or you are not familiar with the policy, well then, how does that person deal with it? Or you say, it's been passed from one person to the next person to the next person. I'm just asking for fairness, not only for Tina, but for any of the persons that you have. This is a very fine campus, one of the best in the nation. But when you keep doing things like this to the persons who work here, it certainly does not give off a great light. So I'm asking that you would really reconsider and look at the way that you are treating not just Tina, but anyone else here. And if it's fair for one, it should be fair for all. If Tina has to go to lunch at a designated hour, then everybody, all of these, ought to be going to lunch at a designated hour. Time has expired. Bless you and thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Axel. Tina Butler?
Good afternoon. I'm here before you today to discuss the board policy B543.6 that you put in place that is not being followed at multi-levels, resulting in me not receiving due process, suffering discrimination, retaliation, property damage in the specified procedural process. I have also experienced disparate treatment, intimidation, a hostile work environment, and most recently defamation of character and possibly slander and bullying. I've had to fight so many battles here at Del Mar College for personnel and equal rights in my 30 years of being here at Del Mar College, so I'm used to the battlefield. But despite it all, and those persons, I still loved my place of employment and would do all that I could to help the institutions and students reach their dreams. But never ever in my wildest dream did I ever think that I would have to dip into my retirement savings to fight against the institution that I once so loved. I, as an employee and any other employee, have rights and should not be penalized, retaliated, or discriminated against for exercising those rights. Those of you who know me know that I will speak up and I will speak out. Employees filing these grievances nowadays and the EEOC complaints are not all wrong. I should not be subjected to an adverse and unprofessional work environment in my new position that was just created. I should not be in fear of a bad evaluation for exercising my rights and filing a grievance, which results in no pay raise, which is coming up. I should not have had 2 computer accesses stricken from me that I've had since the 1990s for me doing my job, and one of them in resolving a student who walked across our stage thinking she graduated, and her job was about to fire her because she had not graduated and just found out. I should not have had my access stricken away from me for helping a parent decide which 2 of her 3 kids she can afford to get to Del Mar when I got all 3 of them in here. I should not be prohibited or limited by HR on what subject matters I can talk to my superiors about, only to be told that it's an EEOC matter. As a grievant, exercising my rights and adhering to the Del Mar policies and procedures and deadlines is what should be done. It's called due process. When an extension has been requested of HR, should I not, as a grievant, be informed about that? Where does it mention in the board policies that extensions are allowed? How long is an extension? How many extensions can be granted? And can I, as a grievant, ask for an extension to file, or would I be told that I missed the deadline? When I ask for sections of FERPA of our HR to no avail, and then I have a problem. And just for information purposes, I informed our HR that I was dealing with an expert witness, an expert, FERPA expert, and it was the U.S. Department of Education, and I have now received that decision that Del Mar did not instruct me correctly. So I come to you today to ask for your assistance in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to our calendaring items for the Board of Trustees. We have a couple of board members who are attending the Board of Trustees Institute on Texas Pathways Program the next couple of days, and then one regent is going to be attending our Community College National Legislative Summit. Our March board meeting is going to be on Tuesday, March 5th. We will notify you of when we, as soon as possible, when we have the interview scheduled for the Board of Regent vacancy interviews.
Possibly the 4th.
Possibly the 4th.
It's been confirmed.
Oh, it has been
Yes.
confirmed, okay. So thank you.
They will confirm.
In time?
So 1
1 o'clock.
PM,
Okay.
1 PM on Monday, March 4th will be the interviews for the 3 individuals to fill that unexpired term. Wonderful, thank you. And then our April board meeting is being changed as well. So if you'll note on April that we are bumping it back to the 23rd. There are some major conflicts in Dr. Escamilla's schedule on both the 9th and the 16th. So I apologize for that, but it's going to be a couple weeks later, but with advance notice, I hope that fits for you all. If it doesn't, please notify myself or Dr. Escamilla or Delia as soon as possible. And anything else for the calendar, sir?
Well, outside the calendar.
Outside the calendar, yes, sir.
Okay, so in front of you, you will have what's known as the POFR, the Public Annual Financial Report. And it's a piece that's compiled jointly between our business office and our public relations office. This is a really, really stunning piece. It does a lot of good for a lot of reasons. It's the piece that we hand out to people that want to kind of skim the surface on our financials to get an overview, and it's a job well done. And this is a piece that we've done annually. I think we've only missed one opportunity over the past 7 years or so since we started this, but here it is for your consumption, and it will be on the website as well. So look for it there. Again, the Public Annual Financial Report.
With no further business before the board, this meeting is adjourned at 4:33 p.m.